We'll be live. Hi, everyone. We're actually not live on.
Hello.
Hello. We're not live on Twitch because the title is too sensitive. Twitch is very sensitive, so I'm going to change the title for Twitch. And oh, the audio is working. Okay, fantastic. Now I changed ISIS to just IS, and Twitch accepts that if I change the title like that. So it does not let you go live with that title on Twitch. So I don't know why. By the way, Daniel was upset that yesterday I did not say we'll be live. So Daniel, I apologize. I will make sure that I will try to make sure that I always say we'll be live every time. I appreciate you being here. Mary saying shalom, everyone. Shalom. Hi, Susie. We miss you. We miss you here. When I go live without you, there's something missing when you're not here.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. People are just waiting until every week where I have streams by myself. People are just waiting for the stream. This one where you get.
Everyone knows Sundays are the best days because they're Susie days.
Yeah. Yes. So we're going to be covering a couple of stories from Germany, Afghanistan, Sweden, France, and United Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is going to be about the
Juicy.
ISIS. Ooh, yeah. The first one.
Well,
are they tragic today? Are they ridiculous? Are they?
we have some tragic news, and then, but kind of across the board, we can just be blasting nonsense.
Right.
Still tragedy, but we can call out some absolute nonsense.
Right. So the German one is about, obviously, it's about the ISIS knife attack in the Diversity Festival that killed 3 people. Then the Afghanistan that we have is about Taliban's shocking new law. Women's voices have been banned. Okay. The third one is about Quran burners facing legal challenges in Sweden. Sweden is cracking down on Quran burners. The French one is about Palestinian flag wearing suspects. Synagogue attack leaves France reeling. Okay, so there's people with Palestine flag attacking a synagogue, and the last one is United Kingdom. A UK imam blames Zionists for volatile far-right riots. Okay, obviously, it's always the Jews. The Jews are always to be blamed. And right at the beginning of the show, Susie, we got our very own angel, our guardian angel, supporting this channel with the super chat, $100 super chat. Amazing every time, unbelievable. Thank you so much, Angel. Susie, do you want to read this?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. I hope we are enjoying it so far. Don't forget to like the stream and comment after. This will be my last supper as I start breast cancer treatment, chemo this week, and I will be gone for approximately 137 days. I will miss my fellow heathens. Oh my God. Angel, well, we wish you strength during this time. You know, I mean, are you going to not have access to internet for 137 days? Like, you can still find us on YouTube, right? Angel, please send me an email because I would love to send you a supportive video message during this time. And yeah, because you're an amazing part of this community, and I know we want to send you our love and support. You got this.
Yes.
Yeah, so please email me.
Yes, please stay in touch with us through email.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we want to make sure that we're updated on how you're doing. And people in the live chat, they're saying get well soon. Dolly is saying get well soon. People are saying like, oh, there's a lot of messages of support for Angel in the live chat. Oh wow, people are saying there's a lot of support. There's a lot of support for Angel in the live chat. Get well soon. Thank you guys for supporting Angel. Wow, our Angel now needs support. Are supporting, yeah. Okay, Angel, please, find. Are you in touch with her at all through email at all?
No.
Like, do you have? Okay, so yeah, Angel, please find. Like, we're gonna be thinking about what the hell is happening with our Angel when you're not here. So please make sure. How can she reach out to you? Does she know?
Susanna, spelled this way, at atheistrepublic.com.
Okay, so Susanna, you see her name at atheistrepublic.com. Angel, can you please confirm that you're hearing what we're saying and you're going to be contacting her? I want to make sure that. Yeah,
Angel,
right.
can you hear us? Up in heaven.
Yeah.
Our angel.
Don't say that. Okay.
No, because she's an angel.
Yes, I know. Okay.
Oh, God.
All right.
My messages of support are already not going well. Angel, forgive me.
Yes. Yes. Oh, yeah, she's here. Okay, good. Please email Susie. All right. Let's get to the news. Can we clap for the first news?
Well, I don't want to clap just because 3 people actually did lose their lives.
Wait, somebody is very butthurt about me for some reason. I want to highlight their insults. What is this? Eve in Germany. I don't know what insult is this. I've never been insulted like this. This is like, she's in Germany, but she's insulting me like a Muslim. This is
or a Hindutva idiot.
Yeah.
Pussy Giver Sister is such a classic like Hindutva insult.
So even Germany, no, yeah. Why do you sound like a Muslim? Like, why is this what are you? What?
Even Germany. Okay.
Okay. Pussy Giver Sister Gay Kid. What is that? Like, okay, are you trying to? Oh, wait. Now I understand it. Somewhat. Okay, so now I get it. So
okay.
Sarcastic.
I apologize.
We apologize. I did not understand what's happening.
See,
So
here's the thing. We get trolled with so much genuine butthurt insult idiocy that it is hard to distinguish.
Okay. Now it makes sense.
What is ironic
why?
and what is actual trolling?
Yes. I was like, even Germany, you don't sound. I was like, even Germany does not sound like an even Germany, and now it makes a lot more sense. Okay, so
it was giving Bob's and Vagine vibe.
Bob's and Vagine's vibe. Yeah. Okay. So that's you know what? Now that I understand what's happening here, I like that title. Call me that. I will wear that insult with pride. What is it again? I have to remember.
Pussy Giver Sister.
Pussy Giver Sister. Pussy Giver Sister Gay Kid. Okay, that's what I am. Okay, thank you, Eve. That guys, when you are, what is it called? Pose law when you are on the internet. Is that pose law when you can't tell if somebody's being joking or if they're being serious?
I
right?
think so.
Maybe. Yeah, it's called pose law. So if because we cannot see the person, we cannot see their face, we cannot see their tone, so it's hard to tell who's being serious and who's joking. So make like the way to get around that is to put /s at the end so that we can tell what the hell is happening.
Like this. Right? See, John has the /sarcasm.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So, oh yeah. First, you said we can't clap, right? Yeah, 3 people died. What am I even saying? Yeah, we can't clap. Okay. Okay. So first news.
ISIS claims knife attack that killed 3 Germans at German Diversity Festival. Okay, guys, before we get into this, I have to say that this is a story that when I first heard about this breaking news, I literally was like, thought that this was essentially this event, which is real, basically reads like what you would think a Russian disinformation campaign from like 5 years ago would read. but it actually happened this way. Okay, let's get into it. The knife attack at let me see if I can pronounce this properly. Zollingen's Festival of Diversity in Germany left 3 dead and 8 wounded, with victims suffering targeted neck wounds, and has been linked to ISIS after the group claimed responsibility, calling the assailant a soldier of the Islamic State who aimed to avenge Muslims in Palestine and everywhere. Although ISIS did not provide evidence for its claim, German authorities have arrested a 15-year-old suspect who is believed to have prior knowledge of the attack, and a 26-year-old Syrian man who surrendered in blood-stained clothing and confessed to the stabbings. Police are investigating his connections to a terrorist group abroad. Zollingen, celebrating its 650th anniversary, had its festivities halted abruptly as Mayor Tim Kulsbach lamented, quote, "Last night our hearts were torn apart. We in Zollingen were full of horror and grief." Chancellor Olaf Scholz and President Frank-Walter Steinmeier condemned the attack, with Scholz stating, quote, "We mourn the victims and stand by their families as the nation grapples with this act of terror." Okay, let me get into the details of this story, because once again, this literally reads like something that that 5 years ago I would have thought was a completely made up effort to just foment distrust within a society, right? You can't. When this was first breaking news, I sent this to Armin and I said, "You can't make this up." So what do I mean? Literally, so there is this town. This town was celebrating its 650th anniversary. The theme of their annual festival this year, oh my God, was literally the Festival of Diversity. Literally titled the Festival of Diversity. All of a sudden, I hear news about there being a knife attack there. And I'm like, uh-oh, what could this be? 3 people are already dead. Several more are injured. All 3 of the people who are dead were between the ages of like 55 and to 75. So older adults. And then I start to look into this because, you know, I have a very conservative approach to these things. I wait for more information. I don't jump to conclusions that this is automatically going to be what I suspect it's going to be. I wait. I start to hear some trickle that the attack was carried out by an Arab-looking man, and this was before they had actually apprehended the suspect. He was still on the run at large. And so I was like, okay, I don't fully trust these news stories. Let's wait some more. So now he has been captured and all the details come out. The attacker was a 26-year-old man from Syria who was an asylum seeker. Not only was he an asylum seeker, he was a rejected asylum seeker. He was a rejected asylum seeker who was supposed to have been deported from Germany. But he was not deported from Germany because when the German officials went to go look for him, went to go find him, they couldn't find him. And he just disappeared into the ether, disappeared out of the system. And then he went on to commit what is being called a terrorist attack by German authorities. He committed this terrorist attack, killing 3 people, wounding several more, traumatizing this town. And this attack has been claimed by ISIS. Now, I want to point out that it is not 100% certain that this was an ISIS attack, because sometimes they have a history of claiming things that maybe they didn't actually do. But they have claimed the attack. And so this terrorist attack has now sparked massive debate within, Dia saying they knocked on his door, but he wasn't home, so they gave up. Yeah. And again, this I can't get over the fact that this literally reads like what I would think some deranged conservative thinks is happening across the world. You know what I mean? But I'm like, oh no, but this one's real. This one's actually real. Like, are you kidding me? A terrorist attack by a rejected asylum seeker literally at a diversity festival? Like, the irony is like just hitting me so much. Like, Armin, first of all, what do you think of my reaction to just the facts on its face?
Yeah, no, it seems like exactly the points that the so-called far-right people were making, all wrapped up in just one event. By the way, it's so interesting how you see so many people coming out and saying like that the problem here is that this is going to give in to the far-right narrative. That's their main concern. And like, I thought the main concern is that people are dying with knife attacks, but hey, I didn't know. Okay, that the concern is actually so-called far-right people being proven right. Apparently that's the main issue here. So that was interesting to see a lot of analysts not actually going right directly to the concern of people being threatened, the security concerns, rather than, oh no, this is going to help the far right. And also, it's interesting how they're calling out the far right, the so-called far right, while now them saying the same things that the so-called far right were saying for so many years.
Yep.
I don't understand.
Yep.
I don't understand. Yep. Like, you are condemning them, but now you're saying the things that they have been saying. So what? How are they far right if now you all are on the same freaking page that this needs to stop? Like the centrists, even many leftists are now in Germany are like, this is gone too far. We need to stop mass migration. By the way, the far right is now going to be emboldened. Okay, but what's the problem? You are saying they were just is their crime that they were ahead of you with this narrative? Is that why they are far right? Mm-hmm. I don't understand.
They just say it in a way that's unacceptable, apparently. No, this reminds the similar thing played out in Sweden when finally like the centrist and leftist party came around to being like, oh yeah, our so-called far right party actually had the right policy on immigration. We just we just didn't want to admit it for so long. So here's the thing. This has caused a massive national conversation. And if there are Germans in the live chat right now, please give me more information or correct me if I'm saying anything wrong. So according to the German media, English German media that I was watching prior to covering this, some of the responses have been a ban on knives in public spaces, like public festivals and also like long distance buses, that kind of thing. Another response has been mention of cutting benefits for rejected asylum seekers. And then a third one was to restart deportations from Afghanistan, restart deportations to Afghanistan and to Syria. So there's so much more that we need to unpack about this. So basically, some members from the AFD party have called for a full-blown moratorium on immigration for 5 years, including a moratorium on asylum, a moratorium on naturalization, and a moratorium on new citizenship. And that seems like going after the issue with a broadsword and not a surgeon's scalpel, because there are a lot of valuable people that Germany probably really wants. I know Armin will probably
support. By the way, I like how the things that I used to say that people are like, okay, Armin, that's never going to happen. Every time I say that, Germany comes and does something and be like, okay, maybe it can happen, right? Because for example, I said in the citizenship test, you need to say that you have support for Israel before that should be part of the test. And people are like, Armin, you don't like what the hell Armin is saying. He doesn't exist in the real world. That is delusional. No country is going to do that. And within weeks after I said that, Germany came and did that. So
Armin, you can call me out by name. It's not people. You're talking about me.
No. It wasn't just you. It was people in the live chat. You didn't call me delusional. People in the live chat were calling you delusional for this, right? You didn't call me delusional, right? So I think like my ideas are actually more grounded in reality than people think. I said, now another thing I said that there needs to, until you could figure this out, there needs to be an absolute stop, a complete stop to immigration, right? And a lot of people are like, okay, Armin, sure, whatever. Nobody's even going to suggest, nobody serious would even suggest that, right? And now a lot of politicians in Germany are seriously suggesting that. I'm not saying it will happen, but it is within the window of consideration. It is grounded in reality. They are saying that maybe we should completely stop migration, and I completely agree that sometimes you need surgical knife instead of like a sword. But if you cannot do surgery, then go with it with the sword. Okay, if you are not a good surgeon, then pick up the freaking sword. So yeah, if you are capable of surgically removing a problem, then surgically remove the problem. But if you can't, then obviously stop the migration until you get to a point where you could be more surgical about it. When you can't be surgical about it, then the sword is legitimate. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I want to walk through some of the proposed measures. So let's see. The government had, okay, so new measures will include a ban on knives at public events and long distance buses and trains. Berlin will also cut social benefits for rejected asylum seekers if they have claims in other European countries. Refugees who travel to their home countries could lose their protection status, which is very interesting to me that this is not already a policy, which is crazy to me because I have a disproportionate amount of my friends that are either current, former refugees or asylum seekers. And at least here in America and in other countries like Austria, like it is a given that you cannot travel to your home country. The entire idea being that if you could be safe in your home country, you would have just moved to a new city or something instead of leaving the entire nation. So that was, maybe there's more detail to that in the German bureaucracy than what's being said in English, because I'm like, what? That's not already standard? Like I have people that are close to me that have made incredible sacrifices of being separated from their family for almost 10 years because they had to prioritize securing their safety and citizenship within a nation that will protect them over going home to go visit them. I couldn't deal with that. Okay, so there was also a measure that they will resume deportations of Afghans and Syrians who have been convicted of serious criminal offenses or suspected of being radical Islamists. So this is where things get complicated. And this is what I want to dive into with Armin. Resuming the deportations to Syria and Afghanistan specifically. So these countries were singled out based on it being the country of origin of many of these attacks that have happened recently. This is actually more complicated than people want to admit, because conducting these deportations of people back to Syria and Afghanistan demand that you actually have diplomatic relationships with those countries. And that's not something that's really here right now. Like that would require a certain level of normalization with the Taliban government. That's very uncomfortable. That's very politically uncomfortable. The other thing that is a major issue, do you want to react to that, Armin? You made a face.
No, I mean, what the issue is that Afghanistan and Syria, their economic hardship, and it's a war-torn country, so it's legally questionable to send people back there. That's the issue you're talking about.
That's one element to it. That's one element to it.
That is, it's insane that that's even an issue. It's insane that that's an issue. So you are, as the government, you have been elected by citizens of a nation state to take care of the citizens of this nation state. That is your responsibility, right? So even if you are voluntarily agreeing with certain international human rights to follow, that is because the citizens of that nation states want you to. This, you get your power from the citizens. You are an agent of the citizens. The very same citizens, if they want you to now prioritize, like, okay, you have gone too far with adhering to laws that are threatening this country, I need you to shift your focus back to us. Then you are, as the agent of the citizens, as their representative, now you need to focus your attention back on the citizens. You know, I'm not against kindness against other, you know, with against kindness or taking care of other individuals, but you cannot do that in your capacity as a representative of people that have hired you to do a different task. If you want to be kind to other people, that's nice, that's noble. Go ahead and do that from within you, with your own power, with your own capacity, with your own resources. If another group of people have given you resources and the power to take care of them within that framework, within that job, then you are required to do your job, which is taking care of them. Again, I don't want to dismiss kindness and sympathy and humanism and taking care of people, but as a politician, you have a job. And if you don't do your job, which is taking care of the citizens of a certain nation state, then you should be fired from that job. Does that make sense?
Totally. But I mean, for the record, I don't think economic hardship is a valid reason to claim asylum. Other forms of immigration, sure, not asylum. But so basically they're like, okay, whether we like it or not, the civil war in Syria is basically over. Like, you know, it's only continuing in certain parts of the country. Like, we can start sending people back. But there is the biggest problem, Armin, is that, say, for example, that there was an Afghan refugee in Germany and he did attack or even just showed support, material support or whatever, to ISIS. And the German authorities find him to be a criminal because of that. Well, the German government, because of European human rights law, and also I believe that this is standard human rights law as adopted by the United Nations since the past century, is that you cannot return someone to a place where you have reason to believe that they will be tortured. So, for example, that Afghan ISIS supporter or member cannot legally be returned to Afghanistan because the Taliban and ISIS don't get along with each other, and they have reason to believe that he would be tortured in custody should he be returned. So now they're stuck with this ISIS supporter in their country because they do not have the legal means to deport him, even though he has been convicted of criminal offenses. Like, this is what people here's I mean, let me actually do you have any reaction to that before I go off on a tangent?
Yeah, so think about this international law, right? And this is why we want international law, we want international standards, but the fact that international law makes no sense in certain situations, it makes people have to violate international law. And this is such a harm to all international laws because we're normalizing violating international law. Because in this situation, it makes sense to violate international law. This international law in Germany, that Germany is following, says that there are ISIS members that you cannot deport because many ISIS members come from Afghanistan and Taliban is anti-ISIS. So if you deport ISIS members to Afghanistan, there is a high chance that they're going to be tortured by the Taliban. So think about it. This is not an international law that people who wrote it didn't think about the consequences. The law says that if you send somebody back and there's likelihood of them getting tortured, then you cannot send them back. This makes it so that every ISIS member that comes out of Afghanistan to Germany should keep. That's the consequences of this law, and this is not a hypothetical. This is what is happening. Germany is forced to keep ISIS members, knowing that they're ISIS members coming from Afghanistan because the Taliban in Afghanistan tortures ISIS members. That means Germany should own up. This is our problem now. And there's nothing we could do because if we do that, if we do anything else, we're violating international law. If the international law is telling you that you have to keep ISIS members, known ISIS members that are coming into your country, and even if they're committing acts of terror, you cannot send them back to Afghanistan. You have to keep them. This means that Germany would be justified now to violate international law. And the consequences of this is the lack of seriousness of all international law. Like, if the normalization of violation of international law basically destroys the whole bond and the whole framework that countries are working. Like, the European Union is now also normalizing violation of international law, and again, justifiably, because they're going out with the pushback laws, basically sending back people that are coming to Europe, claiming asylum without processing their case because there's just too many of them, and they themselves are admitting that we are violating international laws. But unfortunately, they have to. It's the international law that is unjustifiable and unreasonable, not what Germany or Europe is doing right now. They cannot handle this insanity. This is insanity. They have to violate international law. Which also, by the way, I know this is a bit of a different topic, but I have to mention this every time. This also shows how Israel was always right when they were violating international law, and they're like, okay, we have to violate international law because this is a matter of survival. Like, Germany and Europe as a whole is just having a little bit of taste of what it means to be put in a position that you are forced to violate international law, because they're not even facing the same threat that Israel is facing. I mean, this is a challenge, but it's not the same challenge of like lack of existence is not an issue here. For Israel, it is. So people are condemning Israel like, oh, you're violating international law here, you're violating international there. And Israel is like, well, screw you. I have to survive. I have to be able to exist. So that's my priority. And now other countries are saying like, yeah, okay, we are violating international law as well because this is too much of a cost to pay for following international law. So again, I don't know what the process of updating international law is, but for it to be able to have any relevance, it needs to change. These laws make no sense. But yeah, go on.
Yeah, well, they were written in a time, many of them, not all, when the context of the world and the reason why they were written into law at that time was very, very different. They were reacting to a specific environment, and now the environment has changed or become more complex. I think what's really interesting is in some of the coverage I was watching about this, they were talking about how some members of the opposition party, I forget the name, not the AFD, were basically saying that they were planning to declare a state, or they would like to declare a state of emergency regarding the asylum situation in Germany, because they can basically get around the law of the European courts by declaring a state of emergency, which I think is it's a very interesting process. But the question is, of course, on some of the things that Armin has, excuse me, not Armin, on some of the things that I have seen proposed by different politicians and different commentators, is that basically many of them, if not all, will be challenged in European courts. But the problem is that the German public wants to see action being taken now. And German bureaucracy is a bitch. So there are no short, quick, sexy, reassuring actions that can be taken immediately. That ask is very difficult. And the party of
I disagree.
Okay, well, that's my understanding anyway. I'm no German political analyst. But basically, and this is a big problem for the party of Olaf Scholz, because they're about to have regional elections in 2 states, or whatever you call them, provinces in East Germany, I believe. And there is, from what I hear, heavy probability that they could go towards the AfD, which would further secure AfD dominance in national politics. So this happened at the elections are happening today, right? Yeah, it could go towards the AFD. They're losing to the AFD. Are they happening like right now? Are the polls coming in right now? So that could drastically shift the tone.
So when you said there's no quick solutions, I understand when people say that. You send me a very helpful analyst, expert on immigration, arguing that there is no quick solutions. I know, I understand that guy is an expert, okay, but there's no quick long-term solutions, right? But there is a quick short-term solution, which is stop everything until you come up with a more complicated solution, right? I understand the longer term solution is more complicated and nuanced, and there's no like wands that you could wave to come up with the perfect plan. But my response to that is stopping everything is maybe too simplistic and might be not the detailed nuanced immigration plan that you want, but it is temporarily. You should have that until you figure that more complicated, nuanced solution, right? So when people say this is more complicated, Armin, you don't understand. I do understand. The more complicated solution requires time. So work on that. In the meantime, when you don't have that, stop everything until you come up with that. Short term, come up with the simplistic, basic, quick answer for short term. Long term, go with that more complicated plan. Short term, the answer is simple. Stop everything. Stop everything until you come up with that better plan. I don't know. What do you think?
I know, but like, is that even legal? That's what we mean by there aren't good, sexy short-term solutions. Sue me.
No, Germany should be like, challenge me in the courts of like the EU and stuff. Let's set and do it. Let the EU. I mean, who are we kidding? Germany is a big part of the EU, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if Germany wanted to, if they could be leading, changing these standards, right? I mean, grow some balls. Like this is what people want. This is what people are like. You know what? Fuck it. This is the law. We have to change the law. I'm sorry. Okay, let me violate the law so you could challenge me, so I could appeal it, and I'll challenge you back. And this will be the start of changing the law. You know, if you do that, people are like, oh my God, these people actually have grew a backbone. Like, this is amazing. Wow, this party, let's vote. This is what people want. This is what people want. This will get you more votes. This will get you more votes. I mean, if the EU challenges you because of your violating this law, a lot of Germans will be like, oh my God, they're doing this even though they're being challenged by Brussels. Wow, like that will get you more popular with Germans. They will vote for
there'd
more.
be
Like,
tons of member states in the EU who would be like, we got you, bro.
Yeah, you want to defeat AFD? This is how you do it. They're getting more popular. You want to defeat them, stand up to I mean, it's not like Germany is going to do that because but again, I'm dreaming. I'm dreaming. They won't do something that. I mean, they are technically. They're already starting. I mean, it's very little. So this is what I have. Germany recently deported 28 Afghan nationals who were convicted criminals, marking the first such deportation since the Taliban took power in Afghanistan in 2021. So, I mean, I know this is only 28, but this is a violation of certain rules. Like, this could legally be challenged. So this shows that they are doing. I mean, guys, look at where we are. We're celebrating that they're violating international laws because that is showing some backbone. You know what I mean? That is like, okay.
No. Here, let me clarify something. It is not necessarily violating international law. It is only violating international law in the instance that you have reason to believe that they would be tortured upon return.
I know,
and that is not the case for all people convicted of criminal offenses.
Yeah. Let me rephrase that. They are doing things that could be argued by legal professional that this is a violation. These are not clear cut, right? This is something that you would do Some legal experts will like, you cannot do that. And then your legal experts will say, well, actually, and their legal experts will say like, well, I have an actually on your actually, and then you will fight it in courts, right? So it's a long process. But the fact that they're even crossing certain things that are considered red lines by some legal experts is a start. I mean, it's a very slow start, but it's something. So yeah, so the deportations are happening. Some people are angry. Some people say you can't do that. Some people say like we can. Some people say like even if it's a violation, fuck it, we have to do it. So this is like it's a huge back and forth. But yeah, so I have some
the
other points to
scale
make.
of the
Will you go ahead?
problem is pretty large. There are 74,000 rejected asylum cases that have not been deported from Germany. Only 5% of those, I believe, have actually been deported out of the 74,000 people that should no longer legally be in Germany.
God, this is such a look how slow we're moving, right? We're talking about thousands and thousands of people coming in, and they just deported 28 people, and this is big news, and people are challenging it, and this is like, so Germany had to conduct complex negotiations to facilitate these deportations. So imagine the amount of legal costs and negotiations that they had to go through to deport 28 people. They're letting in. So this is why I'm saying you have to stop everything when it comes to letting people in. You had to go through so much work and effort and resources to deport 28 people, and then you're letting in people in the thousands, in the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, there's a huge increase last year.
You cannot, like, even if you wanted to, like, the bureaucracy and the legal framework is so complicated that even when we make progress, we're talking progress of like, oh my god, congratulations Germany, you deported 28 people. This is it. Oh my, I don't, the comparison just makes me, yeah, this is, you have to just stop. You have to stop. Like, even if this is how fast you're progressing when it comes to deportations, then the main solution is to just stop bringing people in, because you're not even close to the level of solving this mess that you've got yourself in. Not even close. Not even close. Not even close.
I think it was I just lost my train of thought. In some of the analysis that we were watching together before the show, Armin, about this, there were some analysts saying, or news anchors who were like, oh, well, isn't it so wrong that we have basically coalesced and normalized the far right narrative that migration is a security and terrorism issue? And I'm like, wait, excuse me? Like, when is migration not an essential part of national security? Like, what? You're saying you're normalizing a far right narrative? Also, is this not like a crystalline example of exactly their point? Like, how dare you make it seem like we're normalizing something evil when there is so much statistical evidence to show that there is a serious issue going on. It's not made up. It's not all bigotry. Like, you literally have people claimed by ISIS attacking diversity festivals. You can't make this shit up. Like, that attitude, it felt so like, I don't know how to put this, like nannying, like, it really frustrated me. And I think it's really complicated because there are tons of people that come to Germany and they assimilate very well and they contribute to the German economy very well. And they adopt the values of the state and they want to defend it and they want it to continue to be a great country. But we cannot ignore the fact that in this past 10 months, we have seen protests where thousands of people came out and demanded an end to the dictatorship of values and demanded Sharia law in Germany. That's not made up. Like, this is not it feels like gaslighting.
Yeah, and actually, to your point, in regards to migrants that are coming in that are so helpful and useful to the country, the problem is that mass migration, illegal migration, and unfiltered migration makes you have less of that, right? Because they're coming in ahead of those people, right? So being against mass migration, unfiltered migration, and illegal migration, it's actually a pro-migration position, because there will be much less people coming in. You will be able to vet them better, and also those people would be able to get ahead of the line, because they're not, your system of migration is not overwhelmed with all these people, all these uh, barbarians coming coming through the gate, and destroying your country. So you will be able to be in a much more stable, orderly, legal framework, be able to have a much better framework where you're allowing in people that you, with a strict vetting process, have identified as people who are valuable to your country, right? So this is actually, being against mass migration is actually a pro-migration position, pro-legal migration, pro-filtered migration, pro-value-based and skill-based migration. I do want to mention something else. Wait. Oh yeah. So one thing else I wanted to highlight every time we see something like this is that when you see crimes like this, I always think to myself that it's such a shame that this mass migration problem becomes an issue only when a crime happens. Because to me, the problem is so much bigger than this. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This is for every person that is coming in that is a criminal, that is willing to commit crimes and does commit crimes. There are thousands of people, for every one of them, that are not going to commit any crimes, but they are harmful to your society. This is just the peak harm. This is just a reflection of somebody that is the most out of line with your values. But there are many, many other people that are not in line, not aligned with your values, but not to this point, but still to the point that they're harmful to your country. So every time I see a crime like this, I'm like, okay, this person represents of a 10,000 other people that will not commit what he did, but are still harmful to Germany. And I think they are, on a long-term basis, they're actually even more harmful to Germany than this one individual on a long-term basis. And those people would have never even been discussed to this level, or would have been stopped unless something like this happens. So that's one point I want to mention. Also, regarding diversity, I myself am not against diversity. Okay, I'm against this version of diversity, right? So diversity. The problem is that for the sake of diversity, you're letting in the most vile in. So, I mean, the way I like to think about it is like, if you're cooking and somebody comes and like, okay, you don't have, this is bland, doesn't have many spices in it, you need to add more spices. Is that good advice? Yes, that's good advice. Add more spices in. But like, for the sake of adding more spices, don't put shit in your stew. They're like, hey, you ask for more taste, you ask for more diversity of spices and taste in my stew, so I am adding shit in my stew. Or like, okay, I said more, I didn't say anything. I didn't say for the sake of diversity to add shit in your stew. No one likes shit in their stew. Okay, so anyways, that's what I'm.
What are you trying to do? Kill me?
Right. So, oh yeah, okay, and also, yeah, let's look at some of the comments that is relevant to the stream, because I wanted to mention something else.
Yeah, there was one more thing I wanted to, actually two more things. I'll start with the shorter one. One is that this is heartbreaking, I think, to me on a personal level, because Armin and I both have close friends who are seeking asylum in Germany right now. And they are wonderful candidates. And they have survived hell. And I mean, I don't know, it just makes it so personal to me. The idea of them getting sent back is terrifying. it's genuinely terrifying, because we know the nature of what they've been through and what they've survived, and we know that if they were sent back, that would likely be the end of them. And the consequence of these bad policies is that now people who are legitimately very good candidates for integrating into German life and providing value to the German nation are now put at risk and put at stake because of a failure to properly deal with the bad apples. You don't deal with the bad apples, the entire barrel goes rotten. It's scary.
Right. So here's the thing. I might sound heartless for saying this, but actually, if you think about it, this is actually the most humanistic thing to do. I say a complete pause on letting anyone in. And then you could go find an example of somebody that deserves to come and actually has a good case, and it's actually would be a productive member of society and assimilate very well. And because of a complete pause, we're putting their lives in danger. What I'm saying is that the way that the asylum process is being taken advantage of, there are more people like that are not making it in, right? There are many people. The mass migration is making a lot of genuine asylum cases not successful because people are overwhelming the system, right? So if I say pause everything, right, and you're like, Armin, because you pause everything, that person stayed in Afghanistan and now they're dead, okay? My argument is that for every one of those cases, I could show you 10 or 100 people that were justified giving them it was win-win for both sides. There was a win for Germany, it was a win for that person. I could find you 100 cases of people that weren't able to take advantage of the asylum process because it was overwhelmed with mass migration.
Yeah.
Right. So there will be more harm done if we don't do this. So I'm not being heartless. I'm being practical. I'm being pragmatic. That's the better word. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't think you are. I don't think you are a genuinely heartless person at all. Which actually brought me to my second point, and which is, Armin, I would like you to define what you mean when you say mass migration.
Mm-hmm. So when I use the word mass migration, I am saying that migration to the point where when you are makes a country unable to effectively do two things. So whatever legal process and vetting process that it has, if migration, if you increase the numbers to the point where you're not effectively enforcing your migration laws or whatever vetting process that you have in place, if you're incapable of validating, confirming that people are being vetted properly, then you have too much migration. You have to bring down the migration where you could legally, like, to enforce your laws effectively, and also to enforce your vetting process quite effectively. If you don't have the resources to handle the number of people coming in, then you're bringing too many people in. So that's one way to realize that you have gotten from migration to mass migration. Another way to realize that you have gotten from migration to mass migration is if the strategies and the policy that you have in place for people to properly assimilate within your society and integrate with the rest of society, if the numbers are high enough for that not to be able to effectively take place, then you have gotten from migration to mass migration. So that's the two metrics I use to see if you are doing mass migration rather than just migration. If people are not properly assimilating and the numbers are too high for them to assimilate effectively, or if you don't have enough resources to vet them properly, or for you to legally enforce your migration laws.
Yeah, no, I just thought it was important for you to operationalize that term, because it's a buzz term that a lot of people use without actually being specific about what they mean, and especially like conservative commentators. And I find it so frustrating because I'm like, you're just throwing around that word without actually articulating what that means. So how can we actually tackle it if you're just using it to just talk about like all people? That drives me crazy. And honestly, it's a damn shame, because
How was my definition of it satisfactory? Like, do you think like I don't use that as a buzzword? I know what I'm talking about when I say mass migration.
I think
Right?
so. My personal opinion is I think you should. It bears repeating more often.
Mhm.
And it's a damn
I think
shame.
it was a very good. To be honest, I thought that was a fantastic definition, and I was waiting for a compliment from you that I did not get. That's what I was waiting for.
Mufti Armin, please forgive me. You showed me your wisdom once more.
Sorry.
You know, it's interesting because in many ways I share an inheritance of mass migration, both within parts of my ancestry and within the history and building of my nation. And it sucks to see it go this way. And it's interesting when you go look at the mass migration that happened throughout America's history, where hundreds of thousands of European peasantry came to build a new life here. You can see areas where there was basically a rise or an explosion of crime that followed different immigrant communities into the US at that time. My understanding is that because I don't remember what this analyst I was watching, I don't remember how he put it exactly. But basically, if you control for men that are unmarried and between a certain age, if you look at the statistics from that time and control for men of those characteristics, the amount of crime basically completely drops, meaning it is primarily driven by men with those characteristics, to the point that when this analyst was going into it in detail, I was literally like, oh my God, what is wrong with men? This is insane. But then I'm also maybe I'm making a joke, Armin. I'm making a joke. But then I'm also like, if we control for those two factors nowadays, would that eliminate this problem? I think it might eliminate this problem.
Okay, so in defense of men, it's true that men are responsible for more crimes. Okay, but if you want to go that
exponentially more,
yes. Okay. Should I also mention that they're also responsible for more science and
do it
more?
Do it. You're not going to get me to back down.
Yeah.
Oh, you thought I was going to cower? Nah.
Okay, so
we
have super chats and also some. But before we go to the super chats, I want to highlight the stuff that we have starred to respond, and then we go to the super chats because they're relevant.
Yes. We got a lot of stuff to go through. Okay, so atheists are just saying we love you, Susanna. I love you too, friend. Okay, here's a comment that you highlighted. Damari is saying diversity isn't bad; it's just too much Islam.
Yes, it's diversity is good if you just make sure that you're not allowing everything in for the sake of diversity. Okay, diversity is good if you could have more stuff. Just make sure it's good stuff. It's not don't add shit to your stew for the sake of more flavor. Okay, yeah.
And Arthur was saying, sorry, except for the basics, I'm ashamed of my German. Oh, no, I think you're talking about he's not talking about being ashamed of being German. I think he's talking about his German language proficiency.
No, I think
except for the basics, I'm ashamed of my German, like basic language ability.
Okay, never mind. I wanted to call you out. So I misunderstand you. I thought you said I'm ashamed of being German, and I wanted to call it out. But you didn't say that. Okay, never mind
that. Hans is saying that's.
Oh, wait a minute! I should call it that. Don't be ashamed of your German. You are learning a new language. You're not going to be don't be a perfectionist. The fact that you learned a new language is admirable. Okay, let's go.
That's true. That is. Oh yeah, he's confirming. I was correct. That's how I feel about my Spanish right now.
No, you should be. I'm just kidding.
Oh! You're an asshole. How dare you? Oh my God, hurt. That was hurtful. You haven't even heard me speak Spanish. How dare you,
I
sir?
just wanted to. I just wanted.
You just
to
wanted
say
to take
that.
a shot at me? Is that what this
I
is?
just wanted to.
This is a
I
joke
just
to
wanted to cause pain.
you know I have a failure complex. Emotional damage. Okay. Anyways, Hans is saying that's liberalism in action. I know you're gonna have an opinion about this, Armin. Take it away.
And also Germany is a liberal state, so it's just acting to liberalism. So, and it says then Han is saying, Armin, you have no right to criticize Germany. They are just acting according to your liberal agenda. So this Han guy is, by the way, you guys, if you guys don't know who this guy is, Han is somebody in our live chat that suffers from low IQ, because I have explained this more a lot, and he still doesn't get it. He's an anti-liberal who's a bit stupid. So we explain time and time and again how nationalism and protecting your border integrity and protecting your nation state is actually completely in line with liberal values. But this guy, I use him. I like to use idiots, because idiots don't understand something when you explain it to them. It's an effective tool for us to highlight in case people are new here and we need to repeat something. So Han is good. It's good that Han is here. So even though something is explained to him, he keeps saying this, so I could use him as an excuse to highlight his comments. So I say something that maybe other people who haven't been here before, I have an opportunity to highlight it again, right? So protecting your border integrity. So Germany failing at being liberal, because Germany is a liberal nation state, but that doesn't mean that everything they do is perfect. Just because we consider a country a liberal nation state, that doesn't mean that we support everything that they do. That's obviously insanity. Like anybody with IQ of 2.5 would understand that us being liberal doesn't mean that every policy by every single liberal country would be accepted by us. Obviously not, right? And nationalism, patriotism, and liberalism, not only they are not in contradiction with each other. In fact, it was invented. The nationalism was invented by liberalism. So anybody who out there who's a proud patriot or a nationalist, you have liberalism to thank that. Everybody here who wants to defend a sound migration policy or wants to protect the country's border integrity, you actually have liberalism to thank for that. There we go. And also another thing about this Han who wants to come and out me every time here, try to tell people, expose Armin. Armin, but Armin have, okay, this guy's English is not as good either. Armin has Muslim friends as well. Oh my. Oh no, expose. Oh wow. Oh no, Armin exposed. Armin has Muslim friends. You don't say. You don't say. All right, so oh, you start this one.
As if that's such a bad thing. Oh yeah, Iran is saying in Israel our hearts are broken. We need support emotionally. Yeah, I literally just found out from people commenting on the live stream that they recovered the bodies of 6 hostages, including Hirsch, Goldberg, Pollen.
Okay.
Saying that they were killed shortly before being found. So I'm literally gonna go cry about this after the show because I can't do it right now.
Okay.
Oh my god. Yeah. Atheist is saying again, Armin, human rights are for humans, not for terrorists.
That's not the right narrative.
Terrorists do have human rights. They do have human rights.
Yes,
they do.
Guys, this is not the right way to put it. And also, Damari was saying something like this as well, saying, I totally disagree on giving terrorists any human rights or dealing with them while being chained by international laws, because international law wasn't meant for those that don't believe in it. That's absolute nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. International law is not only for people who believe in it. Okay, international law, human rights are for all humans, including terrorists. The way that you have to frame this, if you want to be successful at this, is that we have priorities. Not that terrorists don't have human rights. Terrorists do have human rights, However, we sometimes have to care about something else that is a priority, because our country, our liberal nation state, would not be able to be in a position to care about human rights if our nation states is not going to be able to remain liberal, right? So don't talk about this as if terrorists don't have human rights. Terrorists are by definition human. So if you say terrorists, I don't know how you define humans. In fact, you to be a terrorist, you have to be human. Show me one other animal that has terrorists, okay? So a precondition for being a terrorist is to be
Canadian
human.
geese.
Yeah.
Canadian geese.
I-
I
Okay,
literally
fine.
refer to them as terrorists. They come and they migrate here. They
Okay,
poop all
they're
over our
two.
beaches, terrorize me with their shit everywhere. I'll be walking around with my boyfriend and I'll be like, "Oh, look, there are the terrorists," and it's just a bunch of Canadian geese. I hate those geese. Sorry, continue.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. There are two animals in the world that are capable of being terrorists. One humans, and the other one is Canadian geese. Okay, fair. But nothing other than that. Okay. So don't say they are terrorists. They're not human because they're terrorists. They are human. In fact, when they're doing terrorism, they're doing a very human thing, and they do have human rights. But as a nation state, as a government, as a state of a nation state, my priority is to take care of this nation that I am the state of. Okay, that should be your narrative. Also, um, you should have a different name so that we could refer to you better, because you say atheist. So username atheist is saying, Armin, I am an ex-Muslim from Pakistan and I want to take asylum in USA, but I want to come to USA on scholarship or on merit like jobs, etc. Yes. And also, atheist who's saying that, he's a Pakistani ex-Muslim, and he agrees that immigration should be banned in Germany and other Western countries, and mass deportation is needed. So you see, this is somebody in Pakistan. He's an ex-Muslim in Pakistan, and he wants to come to the West, and he understands, he could put two and two together and understand that as somebody who himself wants to come to the West, he's saying that immigration should be banned in Germany and other Western countries. See, this is what you get when you actually put two and two together, right? This is not a far right racist bigot in Germany or United States saying this. This is somebody from Pakistan who he himself wants to go to the United States or Germany.
Well, yeah, because if he wants to come here, he doesn't want to be surrounded by the people he's trying to escape. Like, the amount of terrorizing shit that happens inside refugee detainment centers across Europe. Because, Armin and I hear horror stories firsthand from people about who they have to live with when they're trying to flee for their lives and still remain in hiding and still remain in secret, while they literally risk their life to come to this country to begin with, to escape this stuff. I mean, this is why some of the people that I have met that are the most hardcore about immigration in Europe are people who are immigrants and refugees to Europe themselves, because they're like, you have no idea what I've seen, Susanna. You don't want these people here.
Can I say something regards to the terrorists are not human, so they shouldn't have human rights?
Yeah.
I remind everybody that the beginning of the glory of liberalism and their absolute takeover of the world order, and the demonstration of their superior ways and strength started after against all odds, they defeated all the enemies of liberalism in World War II when they came on top, and they crushed their enemies. And what did they do to demonstrate how liberalism is superior after crushing its enemies? The Nuremberg trials. What did they do with the Nuremberg trials? Were they Nazis? Were they terrorists? Because they gave them the opportunity. They didn't torture them, right? They gave them a trial. They gave the Nazis a chance to defend themselves. And by doing that, they advertised the superiority of liberalism to the entirety of the world. The people who were responsible for gassing Jews, Romanis, LGBT, and handicapped people in the millions, they basically they industrialized death. Those people, when they captured them, they gave them a trial and lawyers to defend themselves. That is liberalism. That is the strength of liberalism. That is the superiority of liberalism. If the terrorists get you to the point where you violate the principles of liberalism, then they have succeeded in taking out your foundations. Remember Nietzsche's quote, when you're fighting monsters, be careful that you do not become one, because knife attacks, instability, those might cause those are harmful, right? Those causes instability, crime rates, nervousness, lack of security and stability in society. But if you are scared enough for you to change your liberal way, then the consequences are so much higher than just higher crime rates, because your foundations are being targeted and your entire future is now at question. So be careful. When terrorists make you steer away from your liberal ways, then there's so much more at risk than just higher crime rates.
Basically, Atheist is asking, do you think that there should be a separate asylum law for ex-Muslims who escaped Islamic countries and want an asylum in the West? Long story short, no. I don't think we're at a place where we can implement that in an effective manner.
We already have, here's the thing, okay? We already have the framework to be able to recognize that the laws already support ex-Muslims, because the laws in place already recognize that ex-Muslims are in danger and require protection. What we don't have is the resources to be able to help them and to be able to recognize who's really in danger. We don't need to change the laws for allowing ex-Muslims in. We just need to reduce the migration to the level where we have the resources to be able to do what the law is already designed to do.
Also, more education on it and better, I guess, filtering and discernment of who is within the staff within these asylum systems, because I know people who are seeking asylum in Germany who have had their cases sabotaged by Muslims that are supposed to be employed by the German state to further asylum claims. And when they figure out that person is ex-Muslim, retaliation is taken against them by their own supposed social workers, which is horrifying. So, okay, we got a lot of super chats. My word. Okay, let's go through these super chats.
You guys.
Asian American is celebrating his membership. Thank you, my friend, for over 2 years. Saying, is China right or left in their treatment of Muslims? Well, I think this... Are you doing a play on words here on right versus correct, or do you literally mean right-leaning or left-leaning?
I think this is not a right or left thing. And I don't even care about right or left. This is more about a correct or incorrect evaluation rather than right or left, right? Right or left has different meanings depending on the time or the country that you live in. So what is right in one country could be left in another country. What is left in one country could be right in another country. When it comes to separation of liberalism versus illiberalism, and conservative versus progressive, the standards are more clear. When it comes to right versus left, we are talking whether are we talking economical or social? Because the metric is completely different when we're talking about the economy or we're talking about social. So if we're talking about economy, the more hands-off you are, you're right-leaning. The more hands-on you are, you're more left-leaning. When you're talking about social, the more hands-on you are, you're actually more right-leaning, and the more it's the opposite. The more hands-off you are, you're left-leaning, right? So I guess if you want to describe this as social, If China is more hands-on, more involved, then you could argue that this is more left-leaning. But again, the right and left categorization is so all over the place that I don't know if it's even useful. I'm more interested. I mean, the conservative versus progressive has more workable definitions, but I think the focus should be the most useful focus is liberal versus illiberal, rather than right versus left, because everybody has their own definition when it comes to what these words mean.
Yeah, well, regardless of which way you cut it, I don't think their treatment of the Uyghurs is okay, to say the least.
I don't think and I think it's not effective. I mean, yeah, it's China, obviously, but yeah, let's continue.
Eve is saying, "Oh, this is with regard to earlier." Oh, I'm about to sneeze. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you. To my defense with the insult, it was the video from last week where we were talking about the Taliban femicide wave, where someone was calling you pussy giver sister. Yeah, Eve. That was our bad. We didn't catch the sarcasm. We didn't understand the reference. No hate towards you.
Thank you for the super chat.
Wait, thank you for the super chat.
It was, yeah, okay. Now I know every time. Yeah, I'm gonna remember that myself.
Arjun gave a super chat saying, technically most Islamic countries are more harsh on ISIS members than the West, so why can't the West prosecute them and jail them instead of deportation? That is the current. That is the only
that's what they're doing.
Redress available right now.
Because it's overburdening their system. They're not citizens. You should be able to the international law should be changed in a way that you could deport them, because if it overburdens your system, then there's a lot more stake. There's a lot more at stake. Again, here's the thing: if you send an ISIS member back to an Islamic country, are they at risk of being tortured? Yes. Should we care about that? I mean, I don't sympathize with this ISIS member. Like, I'm not going to cry over what happens to an ISIS member. These are certain standards, certain principles that we abide by to remain liberal. Even if we want to say that's a principle that we should care about, which we should, as a matter of principle for a liberal nation state, the international law should understand that there has to be priorities, right? An ISIS member being tortured back where I send them is less of an issue for me than my prison system and my legal system being so overworked where I cannot maintain law and order in my own nation state, right? So I'm not saying completely dismiss that as a principle. I'm just saying that there are other liberal principles that should be prioritized. There are other liberal principles that should be prioritized. For example, me being able to remain a liberal nation state, okay? Because none of these liberal principles would be abided by if I'm no longer even a liberal nation state. So if something is threatening me, especially law and order, then yeah, I'm sorry, I have to. That's something that should take a back seat.
Oops. This is so funny. So this person has a picture of Ayatollah Khamenei in their avatar and saying, "Skinny Santa Claus who marries the naughty kids."
What?
And their super chat of $4.99 is just saying $4.99. Well, thank you for the super chat.
Thank you.
$4.99. Kenny, my dear Kenny, gifted 5 Atheist Republic memberships. Thank you, Kenny, which is an amazing reminder that you can support Atheist Republic and what we do, because it is a lot more than just me and Armin. We have a whole team by becoming a member. So hit the join button down below and you get access to members only content and some special emojis.
Yes, I'm trying to, we have some member-only live streams that I did quite recently. So if you are a member, consider watching those live streams that were only for members. On days that you're seeing that I'm not doing a live stream, I'm actually doing it. Many of them, I'm actually doing a live stream. The reason why you're not seeing it is because it's members only. So, yeah, so, and I'm trying to get to a point where I'm doing one live stream every week for members only. So that's a special thank you to our members.
Arjun is saying even if genuine cases are successful, they might be at risk in illiberal Germany due to mass migration, just as they were back home, if not more. I'm not 100% sure what you're referring to here. Are you talking about how we're discussing the issue where the people that are trying to escape certain abuses then are faced with people who still hold those abusive attitudes? Like, is that what you're referring to? I'm not entirely certain. So,
but I do agree, when you have mass migration, the risks becomes high, even if you're trying to be careful, if that's what you're saying.
Carl Schletter just gave €5, no comment. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Blacklock gave $20. Thank you for the generous super chat. Saying the problem is having migrants that aren't assimilating to their welcoming nations, ? If you want the country you migrated in to have laws and customs similar to yours,
Yes.
Don't migrate, just influence politics in your country. If you want the country you migrated to have laws and customs similar to yours.
So he's saying,
okay.
So he's saying, why are people coming to countries that they don't like their laws and customs? Why not just stay there and change the laws and customs? Well, because most of them are not migrating because they love the laws and customs. Most of them are migrating for better economic opportunity. So they want to keep their customs and their traditions and their, most problematically, their values, while taking advantage of all the extra income or the benefits that they're getting from your welfare and from your maybe economic opportunities. So it's because of the money, it's because of economics that they're coming, not because they like your laws or because they like your, many of, not all of them, the ones that we're talking about here.
Okay, Stubird gave a $5 super chat saying, until the 1990s, there was no welfare in the U.S. for migrants. It was work hard or starve. I don't actually know the history of these policies, so I don't know how much that's true.
The welfare for in the U.S. for migrants. Okay, so whatever you think regarding to what welfare we should have for migrants, one thing that is insane that we all should be agreeing on, and we don't apparently, is the fact that we have welfare for illegal migrants. Like, that should be an obvious no. We could debate how much welfare we want for migrants or other people, but even if that's a discussion, it should obviously be for legal migrants only, not for illegal migrants. And, yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the next one. Arjun is saying, my first question to my potential wife in an arranged marriage would be, do you have the values of Atheist Republic?
Good question. That's fantastic.
Hilarious.
You're going to be single for a long time. Oh no, it's arranged. Wait a minute, it's arranged, so it's fine then. Okay, so just ask her.
Oh my god. Blacklock gave another super chat saying, I migrated from my country because it didn't match the way I see life. I was not compatible with the culture. If you migrate because of war, please use the old saying, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Do you have any response to this?
I agree, but this shouldn't even be a please. This should be a demand. Okay, this should be like, hey, you come here, can you please assimilate? They're like, or assimilate or get the F out. That is, it should be more of a demand rather than a request.
Gasian is saying, thoughts on neoliberal versus classical liberal divide. I'm sure you have lots of opinions on this, Armin.
Yeah, I have. It depends on when you're talking. Like, a neoliberal means many things to many different people. So it depends on if you're talking about values, or you're talking about economics, right? Are you talking about Keynesian model of economics versus Adam Smith or the Austrian school of economics? Or is that what you're talking about? Or are you talking about liberalism, the classical liberalism when it comes to government just being hands off when it comes to people's way of life, or the more neoliberal version of it, trying to actually spread and force liberal values across the planet. Depends on which one of these divides you're talking about, right? I think you're talking about the latter one. I don't think you're talking about the economic one, right? And I do agree, if that's what you're talking about, I do agree with the position of governments trying to come up with an international framework where they could have certain values and rules that globally they abide by, because it has worked. I don't even have to come up with a rational response to this. I could come up with an empirical response to this, because that framework has been created through a new liberal framework, and we see the effects of it. So governments being somewhat involved in the government not being neutral and actually being involved in spreading and also enforcing these values on a global scale has been very effective. So I do take that position given how successful it has been. Does that make sense?
Completely. Okay. Oh, we got some more super chats from Gaijin saying our future AI zookeepers. For our future AI zookeepers, I like to state that I am pro sapient rights. Human rights wording is too hominid centric. Yeah, Gaijin, it's good to get this evidence out. Get the paper trail started now for when you're controlled by AI. I agree. And our AI overlords, I concur. Much too hominid centric. Gaijin also said, if only the Japanese royal family and the scientists of Unit 731 were tried. Facts. America allowed Operation Paperclip and exchanged and pardoned for science. That cannot be ignored. That is true. John also said, super chat, thank you, John, saying terrorists are not human. The quote, terrorists are not human. Risks leading to civilian massacres, abuses. I think libs like me ought to debate if the JCPOA was worth it. Criticisms of it are merited. So in the first point that he's making, I think he's leading to the point that if you say, oh, terrorists don't get human rights, then certain actors would have an incentive to just declare mass groups of people terrorists and just act on them with absolute impunity. I think that's what he's getting at. And I'm not sure how this
it's just
connects to the
objectively not
JCPOA.
true. I mean, terrorists are not human. It's just objectively not true. Obviously, they're human. Like what are we? Like that's how is that? It's just objectively a non-factual statement, right?
Yeah.
So
we might not
thank
like
you so
it,
much, John.
but this is in fact a pretty uniquely human behavior.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Now, the purpose of it is to do psychological warfare to make us question the nature of humanity.
Yeah, it also makes us. Actually, here's what it does. Okay, because terrorism is a human problem that some humans do. If you try to dehumanize it, you are going to be much less equipped to tackle the problem, because it is through the human mindset that you have to understand the conditions that causes some people to become terrorists. If you try to remove them from humanity, like separate it so much that it's such a foreign thing to humanity as a whole, you make it unapproachable and ununderstandable. It is obviously something within the human mind that gets you to the condition for you to become a terrorist. And you have to look at it from that perspective. If you try to make them like orcs that are a completely different species that you do not understand, then the approach to understanding it will be seen as something as something that is unaccomplishable from the beginning. So the efforts to understand it and to try to tackle it will also be there will be less incentives for it.
Okay, well, we went deep on this news.
Right.
Shall we move to the next
one?
We
need to. Yes. And let's go through the rest of them a little bit quicker, because we need to make sure that we keep the show under 3 hours. Yeah. All right. Clappable?
Oh, God. I mean, I don't know. I mean, no one died, but I mean, it's still freaking
Nobody,
horrible.
no one died, guys. That's our standard.
That's
Okay,
true.
we're not happy about this. Just no one died. Okay. Next news.
Next news, Taliban's shocking new law, women's voices banned in public. In a shocking escalation of its oppressive policies, the Taliban regime in Afghanistan has introduced a new series of vice and virtue laws that further strip women of their basic humanity. The most alarming aspect of these draconian measures is the ban on women's voices in public, effectively silencing half the population. According to the new laws, quote, whenever an adult woman leaves her home out of necessity, she is obliged to conceal her voice, face, and body. The latest decree goes beyond previous restrictions, now forbidding women from speaking in public, singing, or even reading aloud within their own homes. Women are also prohibited from looking directly at unrelated men and must be accompanied by a male chaperone when traveling. The laws extend to punishing taxi drivers who transport against transporting unaccompanied women. These new restrictions compound an already extensive list of bans on Afghan women. The Taliban tightens its grip on Afghan society, reintroducing practices like public flogging and stoning for adultery. The future of women and girls in the country looks increasingly bleak, with many describing the situation as gender apartheid. So, I mean, this is just inhuman. I mean, Armin, what was your reaction when you heard this?
I mean, I have some experience with this, but so you understand the logic, right, guys? Everybody, all the men and the lesbians in the live chat, can you confirm that listening to Susanna has made you all horny, like the voice? Just listening to a woman, a
Okay,
female
as a
voice, gets you aroused?
bisexual,
Oh, what?
like
No,
just listening to a woman talk is not arousing.
really? Nobody else? Nobody else? Like people in the live chat, you have not been sexually aroused just by listening to. So the logic Islamically is that this happens to everybody, right? That if a woman voice will make you horny, so you should just like not on the female voice should only be heard by the husband or the father or the brother, or else you're just going to lose yourself and just, like, I don't know, RAP the person, right? So this is for your own safety, to make sure that other people don't hear your voice, right? um some people. Okay, so the comments in the live chat are very funny, but I mentioned you that when I was in Iran, right, my math teacher told me that he went to pick up his very, very religious friend, and he wasn't home. Remember the story that I told you, that the wife was at the end of the door, at the other end of the door, and behind the door, and he said, like, yes, I forgot his name, like, let's say Ahmed. Is Ahmed home? And she responded once saying, no, he's not home. And then she's like, do you know where he is? And then she responded, and then he asked, do you know when he's going to come back? And the third, I don't know, it was the third time or the fourth one, but then she spoke different, like she was like, how, like, I don't know, like she was speaking in her female tone that she's in somewhere, but then all of a sudden she had the third time she was responding, or the third time or the fourth time, she went like, I don't know, like this, like some monstrous sound. She tried
Turns
to
into
make her
Gollum all
sound
of a
like,
sudden.
yes, she turns to Gollum or Batman or I don't know what, but she's like, she started talking in a different tone, and he was shocked, like, what the hell is happening here? Why did her voice turn like that? And he then realized that apparently this religious family is abiding their marja's recommendation to make sure that only the first, when you're talking to a man that is no mahram, means sinful to be next to, the only first two or three, I don't remember, responses could be in your female voice, because if you continue talking to him, he might get aroused. So you have to change your voice into a manly voice or to a non-sexually arousing voice for you to be able to continue talking to him. So I remember this being some part of Islam. I'm looking to see if there's any hadith about this. But yeah, go on.
Which made me question. I was like, when it talks about, because I can't go read this in the original language, right? How this is described. Because when I heard this news, I immediately started to think about those examples you've given, Armin, about where people modulate their voice to make it unattractive, basically. I'm like, is that what they mean? Like, you have to conceal your voice, so maybe do something to change it. It's so strange, but it's so fascistic. Like, I mean, no surprise at all, but you literally are now banned from singing within your own home. You cannot even be caught reading out loud within your own home. Should, I don't know, the neighbors hear you or something? I mean, I don't even know what to describe this level of subjugation. It's approaching almost like chattel slavery or something. I don't even, because what else is left to you? I really struggle to find the words to capture this level of restriction and illiberty. It's absolutely insane. Including, you're not even allowed to look directly at an unrelated man now by law. Because I know that there are many people that practice that. Like, I had an ex-boyfriend who grew up in a very strict Muslim country, and he talked about when he moved to America, he literally struggled to look at women in the face for a while because he used to get beaten if he looked directly at a woman as a child. And it's just mind-boggling. But what do you think about the people who were saying that the international community is not doing enough when it comes to Afghanistan, and that as countries begin to negotiate and do kind of maybe dance around normalizing relationships with the Taliban, that those actions are exactly what is empowering the Taliban to take measures like this upon women?
What do they want the international community to do? I don't understand what they want the international community to do. Like, they want the international. I think there's a wand in the United Nations that they keep in a very in a locked chest, and when they open it, they could pick up the wand and they could wave it, and then the regime that they don't like, the entire world has agreed that they don't like it, would just whoop go away, and then international liberal values, and the country becomes liberal and secular and has normal relationship with other countries, and all of a sudden they're going to respect human rights. Like, what do you want them to do? The greatest nation, the greatest army on the planet spent 20 years there, and they weren't able to fix this. Then what the hell do you want them to do? Like, we have in the nation with godlike powers use its entire military power in that region to be able to try to maintain order. This is a country that the Taliban is hegemon in that region. They are a reflection of the values of people there. What do you want other nation states to do? What do you think? You think that Afghanistan was at war with the liberal world order for 20 years, and fighting them with shooting them and bombing them didn't convince to back down. So what do you think the international community could come do to the Taliban, and the Taliban come saying like, okay, that might be too pressure, we will back down now? Like, these people were dying. They were willing to die for 20 years for their values. Do you think there's certain lever that you could pull right now, and then they're going to be like, okay, we're going to back down now? The problem is so much more foundational in Afghanistan. The problem is from the culture and the values within that society. The problem is not even the Taliban. The Taliban is a reflection of the disease that is already widespread in Afghanistan as a whole. No army is going to be able to fix that. You have to fix this is a multi-decade problem that you have to solve by, focusing on the people from the bottom up. There is no top-down approach to this. The solution is that there is no quick solutions. Like, you have to realize that.
Yeah, oh God, it's so bleak. It's so bleak. There's something I shouldn't say. I don't know. The only thing that I can think of helping is trying to do like distance learning packages and
satellite internet.
Satellite internet, distance learning packages, covert educational networks. But I mean, that takes so much. That's a very heavy lift. The distance learning packages, maybe not much. We already have BBC Persian, we have Radio Farda, we have Azadi Daily. Like, these are mechanisms that are funded by the US and British government to help provide information to people across the world in different languages. Those could be emboldened and adapted in the way that are most easily consumed by the population. Frankly, that's the only thing I can think of right now.
Okay, so I actually went and found where this comes from to see if there's any hadith backing this. And actually, Susanna, it's actually worse.
Oh no!
Like, it's worse in the sense that it's worse in the sense that it's apparently based on a Quranic verse. It's not even hadith.
Oh no, that is worse.
So this is what it's based on. Quran chapter 33, verse 32, saying, "Wives of the Prophet, you are not like any other woman. If you are truly mindful of God, do not speak too softly in the case the sick at heart should lust after you, but speak in an appropriate manner." So that guy so this apparently the ruling by some at least the Taliban is Sunni, so they have different justifications, but my experience then was based on a Shia marja. So apparently they would refer to this Quranic verse to justify what they were saying, and I bet you the Taliban is getting their justification for their ruling based on this Quranic verse as well. Yeah, Surah 33, chapter 32. People.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because...
Sorry, Ayah 32. Okay, go
on. My understanding is that in terms of the burqa and covering the face, that there actually is not anything that legitimately mandates this. I remember looking into this a few years ago when I was trying to understand the logic behind the niqab, and there actually, correct me if I'm wrong, Armin, my understanding is that there isn't actually real edicts from the major sources of Islamic understanding that mandate anything about the face. It's mainly clerics taking the logic of we should cover things that are full of temptation and just taking it to the conclusion of basically eliminating any humanity and individuality of a woman, because it's all hypersexual apparently.
Yes. So, for example, in the modern legal sense, what people refer to is the spirit of the law. Have you ever heard that? The spirit of the law, like trying to understand what was the point of this law and using that point to justify other laws, right? So that's what a lot of Islamic scholars try to do with the Quran, right? And this is why alcohol is banned, because there's nowhere in the Quran that mentions a ban on alcohol. The Quran mentions banning wine, not alcohol. So technically, if you just wanted to follow the Quran, you should be able to drink beer, you should be able to drink vodka, you should be able to drink spirits, tequila, because the Quran only says about wine. But then what the Islamic scholars did were like, obvious, well, what was the problem with wine? Obviously, it was the alcohol. So given that the alcohol was the problem, our conclusion is that all other alcoholic drinks should be banned as well, right? So that's how they get from one command to the Quran to other commands. Right?
And some people interpret it differently to say, oh, it's actually not the alcohol itself that is wrong. It is the intoxication that's wrong. So it's not wrong unless you're becoming intoxicated and drunkenly because of it, and because that's the harmfulness of it. It's very interesting.
Well, that's the modern version of it. Throughout Islamic history, all Islamic schools of thought were like just a complete ban on alcohol until it was discovered that, even if you bite an apple, there's some level of alcohol in there. So then they come like, okay, there needs to be a higher than certain percentage for it to be, not okay. Yeah. Anyways.
Okay. Oh, this one is interesting. You're going to have lots of opinions about this.
Okay, clappable?
Yeah.
Next news.
Quran burners face prosecution. Sweden cracks down. In a controversial move reflecting growing tensions between free speech and religious sensitivities, Swedish prosecutors have announced plans to put 2 men on trial for burning the Quran during public protests. The men, Salwan Momika and Salwan Najem, face charges of, quote, offense of agitation against ethnic or national groups for their actions, which have sparked outrage across the Muslim world and raised concerns about potential jihadist attacks. Senior prosecutor Anna Hankio stated, both men are prosecuted for having on these 4 occasions made statements and treated the Quran in a manner intended to express contempt for Muslims because of their faith. This legal action follows a series of Quran burning incidents in Sweden and neighboring Denmark that strained diplomatic relations with Muslim majority countries, even leading to violent protests at the Swedish embassy in Baghdad, where the embassy was stormed twice, and the second time it was set on fire. The case has ignited a fierce debate, with free speech advocates arguing that such acts, however offensive, should be protected under Sweden's constitution. Adding to the complexity, one of the accused, Momika, himself is a refugee from Iraq. This decision comes amidst a complex background of rising anti-immigrant sentiment in Europe, concerns over Islamic extremism, and debates about the integration of Muslim communities in secular Western societies. So this is very interesting. Speaking of what we were talking about earlier, Armin, on the show, what's interesting is that, one, Can someone please explain to me? Because how it is translated in English media, Swedes, tell me if I'm wrong, how it's stated in English media about this is that they are prosecuted for, quote, okay, offense of agitation against ethnic or national group. Can someone explain to me how burning the Quran is an offense against an ethnic or national group? Please explain. Please explain. I would like to see how the prosecutors have squared that circle. I would like to see how the prosecutors have squared that circle, because it makes sense to me. So that's the first thing that needs to be addressed. Actually, before I dive into a couple of things, Armin, please, not a religious group. Not a religious group, because I think that would be a violation of Sweden's constitution. But it's an ethnic group or a national group. But this man himself is an ethnic minority within Sweden.
So do we have in their constitution that you cannot ban any expression of views against an ideology, and that's why they're desperately trying to make this about ethnicity, so that it somehow the ban is more constitutional? I mean, the fact that the guy himself is Arab and Iraqi makes their claim. The guy is from Iraq. Like, how is he being hateful towards an ethnicity? It's insane. But are they trying to make it constitutional by acting like that this is against an ethnicity? Is that why they're doing it?
Look, I don't know anything about the Swedish constitution. I'm not going to pretend like I do. Let me be clear. But basically, that's my understanding.
Yeah, but by the way, listen, I do want to acknowledge that Sweden is doing a real good work. That they're leading away when it comes to taking steps against mass migration or illegal migration. So we congratulate them on that. However, this nonsense needs to be called out. Like us calling out Sweden here, that doesn't mean we're not acknowledging the other thing that they're doing over there, right? So I have a lot of points about. I don't know. Do you have any other points to make? Because
take it away.
Okay.
The only point I have to make is kind of at the end.
Because a lot of people say, like, Armin, you guys are being idiots. Okay, free speech, free speech. Burning Qurans will cause Muslims to be angry, and they're going to be violent, and then people will die, and then people like you who are, advocating for burning Qurans or whatever like that, you are going to be responsible for their death.
How about we hold the people that committed the harm against individuals? Sorry, that immediately pissed me off. Let me shut up.
This is an insane point to make, because the reason why we have violence is the submission to the violence, is the fact that you make it work. If people are threatening you with violence and then you listen to them, if they intimidate you with violence and then you submit to their ways, what you are doing is you are signaling that violence is an effective method. Have you guys not heard the very famous term, we do not negotiate with terrorists? What do you think? That's just a chant? This is something people say that has there's no practical reasons. Why do people say that we don't negotiate with terrorists, right? Because you don't want to incentivize acts of terror. Why is it that when somebody comes and, let's say, for example, someone comes and kidnaps your child and they ask you for money, why do the police insist not giving them the money? Why is it in many countries against the law for you to give them the money, even if that not giving the money ends up killing that child? Because even if that child's life is important and their death should be avoided, but if somebody kidnaps a child and you pay the hostage takers money, now you're incentivizing this behavior. The proper response to an act of intimidation or violence is to do exactly what they are not asking you not to do. If a community of people comes and tells you that burning this book or saying a certain word or a cartoon is going to make them violent, then not drawing that cartoon is going to cause more violence. Not saying the words that they're asking you not to say is going to cause more violence. Not burning the Quran is promoting violence. If they say, well, I actually don't recommend burning, I recommend spitting on it, even pissing on it or tearing it apart, because I don't want to make, when we say burning, it's even more effective. When it comes to insulting, it's as effective, right? Spit on the Quran, tear it apart, because I want to make sure that you don't accidentally burn yourself or something like that. It's much more simple. It's much more insulting, environmentally friendly, safe and secure, and simple and cheaper for you to just spit on the Quran. Here, hold on, I'm going to demonstrate. This is my Quran, and let me show you how economic this process is, right? Because I use this Quran for insulting, and you can see that I haven't even finished Surah Baqarah, right? I haven't even finished Surah Baqarah. So if you want to burn the Quran, for you to be able to continue doing this, you have to buy so many Qurans, right? I have been doing this for such a long time. I haven't even finished one Quran. So
it's more effective to go page by page, because we don't want to be funding some Dawah center off of just how many Qurans we're burning.
Right. So it's a lot more economically friendly, right? And it's a lot like if I wanted to burn this, I would like risk burning my house down, right? It's more insulting, right? And yeah, so, and also environmental friendly. No more carbon footprint, right? So take a Quran, guy. Trigger alert for people who don't like to see this, right?
Well, you already
Spit
ripped
on
it
it.
out. It's too late now.
And I also, yeah, and then you go like this, right? Easy peasy. Okay. If you tell people not to do this, because Muslims are going to be violent, you're signaling to Muslims that violence works and they will
Yeah.
cause more violence, right? So
Yeah.
there's that point. Also, if you normalize this, if you allow people to burn the Quran, spit on the Quran, until to the point that it gets so widespread where Muslims are desensitized, right? You're actually going to get less burning of the Quran. Do you know why people don't burn the Bible? Because, Christians have become
No one really gives a
desensitized.
shit.
Yes, Christians have been desensitized to acts of blasphemy, so people do not burn the Quran, the Bible. If you do this to the point where Muslims get more desensitized, there will be less point for us to insult the Quran, right? So wait,
Although there are some conservatives that are learning from violent Muslims being like, oh no, actually we shouldn't tolerate this. Why don't we, like Candace Owens starts talking like that. She's like, no, we need to get more extreme. I'm like, because they see it working.
Yes, exactly. Because they see it's working, because they see governments and nation states are bending the knee. So some Christians are like, maybe we should be violent, right?
Yeah,
maybe we should be like more like Muslims, right? Yeah. Also, another point is, this is burning the Quran, or not burn, insulting the Quran, tearing it apart, pissing on it, spitting on it, whatever, right? That's good for Muslims. Okay, let me make this point. Insulting the Quran is actually good for Muslims. Let me tell you how, right? First of all, if right now a Muslim who is not used to insult on Islam gets mentally harmed and very much stressed out when they experience such an act, if we normalize this to the point where Muslims, if you draw Muhammad, Muslims are like, meh, another idiot drawing Muhammad. Meh, another idiot spitting on the Quran. Well, that's great. We have desensitized them. We have thickened their skin. So they are now more mentally stable, and it's good for their own mental health that they are now a lot less sensitive, right? Another
take
point,
a fucking
another
joke.
reason, yes. Another reason why insulting the Quran is good for Muslims, right, is because if we insult the Quran to the point that we signal to the Muslim community that violence and intimidation doesn't work, and as a result would reduce violence and intimidation, the backlash of that eventual violence and intimidation to the Muslim community will be less. So by insulting the Quran, you're actually making it safer for the Muslim community. You're welcome. Last point I wanted to make is that any definition of hate speech, that you want to come up with, and based on that definition of that hate speech, ban certain speech or expression, would necessarily make you have to ban the Quran. There is no reasonable definition of hate speech that you could come up with, that you could ban, that would not lead you to the conclusion that this law should be applied to the Quran itself. Last point. That was my last
point. You articulated that perfectly. I don't even know if I have anything left to say. And to be fair, you do see instances of some of that desensitization happening. And as much as things, we have these instances that pop off that are really bad, if you compare where we were in like the 1980s to now, we have seen change and progress in that regard. Maybe not as much as we would like or as fast as we would like, but there has been progress. It reminds me, I have a copy of this Charlie Hebdo. And in French, it says, well, I don't know if you can see this, but it says like all this for this. This was I believe the first time that Charlie Hebdo republished the drawings of the prophet after the attack on their offices, and they republished these images in commemoration of the beginning of the trial against the attackers. And so that's what they mean when they say all this for this. Like all this pain, all this fear, all this suffering, all this loss for this, for a drawing, for this, for an offense. For an offense.
It's
For an
absolutely
offense.
fine.
And so it's the same thing. We're all this
Yeah.
for an offense. There are few
For
other
feelings.
offended feelings that lead to all this. These people dead, you know? And it deserves to be called out.
You highlighted something in the chat that I think is relevant by Nikki that I
What did
think
I
we should highlight.
Oh yeah.
You start.
So Nikki's been spamming the live chat saying, "Is burning the pride flag freedom of speech? What are your thoughts?" Yes, 100%.
Yes,
100%.
absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. In fact, Nikki, to make this point on my Persian show, on the Persian Atheist Republic channel, I had a Quran, my own a copy of my own book, my own picture, an LGBT flag, right? A picture of Reza Pahlavi, a flag
and the
of
Israeli
Israel.
flag.
Things that I admire and like. And I basically went through spitting on each and the U.S. Constitution, which I admire, right? So I spat on the LGBT flag and I tore it apart. The Israeli flag, the U.S. Constitution, my own picture. I spat on my own picture and tore it apart. To show you, like, what happens? What happened to the LGBT movement by me spitting on it? Did it crumble? Did it crumble? What happened to Israel? Was it destroyed? Like, no, what happened to me? I spat. Like, do you know that many people who spit on their own picture? I spat on my own picture. I burned my own book to make a point. There's a video of me. This is a book. This is to make this point. This is my book, Why There Is No God. Okay, guys, it's free. You can buy it on Amazon, but there's also a free version of it, a PDF version of it in the description if you want to download it for free. It's a bestseller on Amazon, right? To make this point, I burned my own book. So yeah, who cares? Who cares?
Who cares? You know, and I like this comment from John. This isn't freedom of expression. This is strength of freedom of expression. As an LGBT person, if there's anyone coming forward saying that we should like ban hate speech and that we shouldn't allow people to burn the pride flag, I would come out in strong opposition to it. You know why? Because I know that my community is stronger than one person wanting to burn a flag. Who gives a fuck? Like, it's so much stronger than that. If you have legitimate insecurity over this kind of thing, I think that says more about you. Like, who cares?
Right.
This is funny. Daniel was saying, okay, Armin just like spitting on things. This is clearly sexual. So what if it is?
Yeah. So first of all, I mean, if it was, I wouldn't be ashamed of it. It would be my kink. If it was, like, I don't know why you guys, is this an insult? Okay. I would be, if spitting was my kink, I would be proudly enjoy it without any shame. If it was.
Mm-hmm.
Don't kink shaming here.
Yeah, come on. But Armin.
By the way, for people who have spitting as a kink shaming, please make sure it's hygienic. Please make sure you're not spreading viruses. Please, okay? Like, make sure you're doing it responsibly. Every time I think about that, I'm like, oh my god. Like, I'm hoping these people during the Corona stuff, they would like stopped enjoying their king for at least 2 years.
I have a story about that actually.
Right.
Dude. Dude. Let me not talk about some stuff. So
people are saying, please no. Yeah.
Unicorn is saying stoners love the Bible. They use it for multi-purpose. Do not smoke the Bible, okay? The ink is bad for you. Don't do it. It's bad. It's bad for you. Have I had to do it in a pinch? Yes. Okay, but it was a necessity, okay?
Yeah. No, guys,
don't do
not
it.
Burn pages. Yeah. The ink, smoking the ink from the Bible is really bad for you.
It's bad for you. Oh, there's something else I wanted to say. Interesting point, just when we're on this topic, how we were talking about earlier, how the laws around not deporting people if you believe that they will be tortured where you send them back. So that's actually true of one of the guys who is in charge of, or the main leader of this thing, Salwan Momika. My understanding is that they found him to have lied on his application processes, but they can't deport him because they think he'll be deported in Iraq. Excuse me, tortured in Iraq. What do you think about that, Armin?
Well, one specific case, well, they didn't send him back because they thought that they would be tortured if they sent him back to Iraq. I mean, again, here's the thing. I'm not going to be commenting on individual cases, right? Because first of all, they're complicated. I don't know the entirety of the case, and even if I did, I'm not a legal expert to know the nuances of what you could do and what you could get away with, right? What we're talking about is generally, right? We want to see laws changing where more deportation are possible. Are there going to be unique cases where even with the laws of change, deportation would not be possible? Yes. But rather than talking about individual cases, we have to look at like much larger numbers, right? We want to see deportations in thousands rather than in tens of, in numbers like 28, 30, 50. We want to see deportations in the numbers of being thousands. Whatever it takes to get there, get us there. And if one individual case, you're like, oh, what about this case? I don't know about that individual case. That's not the issue. You just get the numbers to thousands, whatever it takes legally.
Which actually reminds me, that kind of evolving framework, particularly in Germany, is of interest to me. So if you guys see news stories about how these laws are being changed and what action is being taken, please send it to us via our Discord. Link is in the description. We have an entire channel on our Discord dedicated to suggestions for this news show. So please send it to me so I can make sure to stay informed, particularly for our German compatriots. Okay, so let's go to the next story.
Wait, we have 2 more super chats.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Fedagan is saying, love your work, sharing, good September. That's right. Happy September to everyone.
Guys, Fedagan, thank you not just for the super chat, but also really, really thank you for sharing. We do need people sharing our video. I mean, thank you for the super chat, but guys, people who do not want to support us financially, sharing our channel, recommending it to other people is such a great way of supporting this channel. It makes a huge difference. So please go ahead and do that. Recommend us. Unless it's not safe, don't do it.
Yeah, Arthur is suggesting DW in English. I do like DW a lot, but let me know if people think they have a bias. Carl Schletter gave a super chat. Thank you, Carl, saying blasphemy is not about emotions, but about power.
Well, I mean, it's not
blasphemy law. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, blasphemy itself is about power, but it's not an either or. Okay, blasphemy is about power in places where you have the law in your favor. Then it's about you use the law to enforce that power. In places where you are the minority, in the way to exert that power is through expression of anger and emotion, right? So being a crybaby is actually weaponized. So it is about emotions, right? So blasphemy is about obtaining power through expressing emotions. So it's not either or, it's both.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that I've been following when it comes to these Quran burnings in Sweden and Denmark is essentially how these instances have been utilized and weaponized by Russian propaganda systems, especially in their information campaigns within Arabic speaking networks. It's rough.
All right, let's go to the next news.
Okay.
Clappable?
Yes. We can we can clap. No one died.
Okay, no one. Next news.
This is so crazy. Palestinian flag-wearing suspect's synagogue attack leaves France reeling. In a shocking incident that has rattled France and heightened concerns about rising anti-Semitism across Europe, as if those concerns were not already there, a suspected terrorist attack on the Beth Yaakov synagogue in Le Grand Monte has left the nation on edge. On August 24th, an assailant wearing a Palestinian flag wrapped around his waist. So it's so silly and stupid to me. Like, you're literally gonna do this with the Palestinian flag tied around your waist like a skirt? Like, so it's so stupid. Attempted to set fire to the synagogue complex and caused an explosion that injured a police officer. French President Emmanuel Macron condemned it as a terrorist act, prompting a swift response from authorities that led to the arrest of the suspect and 2 associates. Interim Prime Minister Gabriel Attal underscored the gravity of the situation, stating, "We narrowly avoided an absolute tragedy. Once more, French Jews have been targeted and attacked because of their beliefs." Now, let me be clear. I think this is actually getting it wrong. I don't think they're being attacked for their beliefs. I don't think most of these people know what Jewish beliefs are. They're being attacked because they are Jews, not because of the beliefs of Jews. Let's get that straight.
Wait, who said that? Who said that the Jews were being attacked because of their beliefs?
The interim Prime Minister Gabriel Attal, who normally I like a lot of his stuff.
I thought a rabbi would say that because they want to make it about the beliefs, but no. Okay, so no. I don't know why they would say about their beliefs. No, it's because of their ethnicity. It's because of their blood, as they see it. Yeah, but go ahead.
The incident has reignited debates about the safety of Jewish communities in France, which has the largest Jewish population in Europe outside of Israel, besides the United States. It's like Israel, United States, France, and has seen a troubling rise of extreme anti-Semitic incidents. As the nation reels from this close call, authorities have increased security around Jewish places of worship while the investigation continues under the National Anti-Terrorism Prosecutor's Office, treating this case as an attempted assassination connected to a terrorist attack. So a little bit of further detail about this is that my understanding is that this attack was supposed to be basically, these attackers misunderstood the correct time of the Shabbat service, and that this attack was supposed to be on the synagogue during Shabbat when many people would be there. But instead, there were only a few people inside the complex at the time, including a rabbi, and luckily no one was harmed except for a police officer when there was a propane tank that was put by some cars that then exploded. And so he was injured in that explosion. But basically, it was only because of their apparent mistake when identifying the time when the most people would be there that France managed to avoid potentially a much larger casualty event. Which is really scary. And I don't know, like, how can anyone reasonably say that this is not a movement with a major anti-Semitism problem when I cannot get over this. You literally go attack a synagogue with the flag tied around your waist. And people are like, oh no, this has nothing to do with hating Jews. Like, you can't be serious, right, dude? Like, I still can't get over that. I can't get over that. Armin, what do you think about this?
I just want to highlight some of the comments that Dee has found for us that she highlighted on social media.
Oh, yeah.
So this person is saying, this is the man suspected responsible for the explosions outside a French synagogue today. Those of you who've ignored or tolerated and even encouraged nearly 11 months of calls to globalize the intifada, basically by journalists, politicians, and regular people, this is on you, own it. So that was one comment. So this lady, Marina, was saying the suspect is in the French synagogue. Our son was caught on security camera holding a Palestinian flag. And this person, wait, hold on. I'm not even highlighting the right thing. So that was you should have told me. Okay, so this was the original comment. And this person, now Marina, is saying the suspect is in the French synagogue. Our son was caught on security camera holding a Palestinian flag. And this person is saying, meaning it was a Jew posing as a Palestinian protester to blame the Palestinians. We know the games you Jews play.
Bro,
I don't
what the
know
fuck?
Yeah, I don't know what this person is trying to do. Because is he trying to say, because you are, by saying we know the games you Jews play, I mean, we don't need this arson as an example to show the problem. You're showing us the problem. Like, you yourself are an exhibit A of the point that is being made here. Like, the point that this lady is trying to make here is made by your comment itself, even if we ignore this news. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so Dee helps find a lot of the where did it go? Dee, our lovely editor. Everyone say thank you, Dee. She's amazing. One of the most valuable members of our community by far. She helps edit our articles and also find some of the social media posts to highlight in our articles. And she often goes to highlight some of the negative or most absurd reactions to this news. She's saying there was a lot of false flag attack talks on social. I believe it.
Yeah.
You know, and I've been talking to Armin about this recently, and you know, sometimes I wish I lived in a world as simplistic as an anti-Semite. You know, I think it must be some form of bliss to live in a world as simplistic and smooth-brained as an anti-Semite's world. It must be so. Well, I mean, it must be kind of distressing in the sense that you think that there's this, you know, mass evil conspiracy in the world, blah blah blah. But at the same time, it is comfortingly simple to just make it all about the Jews every time. Just make it all about the Jews every time.
I mean,
it's so simple.
It makes it easy to. It's like it's basically the utility is the same as God did it, right? It just simplifies things.
The Jews of the gaps. The Jews of the gaps.
The Jews of exactly. It's the Jews of the gaps. Wait, did you just come up with that? That's
yeah.
Did you just come up with it? That's genius. Oh my God, that is genius. That is so genius. It is the Jews of the gaps. Wow. Yes. that is,
everything I cannot explain is the Jews. Guys, oh my God. YouTube, these are not our opinions. We're making a joke.
That is genius. Good job. I'm impressed.
That's why I got so excited. I'm like, oh my God, I've just hit gold.
Right. Oh, so man. There's another comment by Ehab saying, as expected, French police have arrested a 30-year-old Algerian man as a suspect who set fire on the synagogue in southern France. This is the first This isn't the first time racist anti-Semitic individuals have exploited Palestine's name and flag to conceal their vile actions. And this person responds, LOL, how many Jews died? 0. Okay, but it wasn't for the lack of trying, you idiot. And then
Because of
also
incompetence.
and
Asshole.
then it says how many Palestinians were killed by Israel? Well, how many Palestinians were killed by Israel? It's the wrong question, because Israel was not trying to kill those Palestinians, except the Palestinians that were responsible for the terrorist attacks and them being terrorists themselves. The Palestinians, well, to be honest, many Palestinians were directly on purpose killed by Israel's military because they were terrorists, and good job, Israel. But the Palestinian civilians who died are not because they were targeted by Israel, is because Hamas on purpose made it very difficult for Israel to be able to avoid them while taking out terrorists. So there's the answer.
Armin, we shouldn't even play into that game. We shouldn't even play into that game. We shouldn't even play into that game, which is we're talking about what's happening within the French nation right now. Pull your head out of your ass. We're talking about the concerns of French citizens right now. I'm not playing this game. We're not playing this game. What do French Jews have to do with the actions of Israelis? Give me a fucking break. Stop fucking conflating these things.
That's actually a good point.
There's legitimately no reason to explain that. There is no reason to play into that game and explain it when we're talking about what's happening among French citizenry.
Yes, actually, you're right. If the question should have been 0, when you say like how many Palestinians have been killed by Jews, I'm like, you mean French Jews? 0. Like, what do you think? Like, what does that got to do with anything? Yeah, you're right. Because by me explaining it, I'm giving into this collective mindset that, let's say, for example, Israel is a criminal nation state and IDF is pure evil. Let's even say that's true. What does this got to do with French Jews? Actually, that's a very that's a very good point.
So I'm letting the language fly today. You know, I try to clean myself up and be a lady sometimes, and dealing with the pure deficiency of anti-Semites just brings it out of me. I'm please pardon my impropriety. You know, one thing I'm thinking of is and Armin has made this joke many times before, and I still believe it to be true, which is if these anti-Semitic conspiracy theories are true, guys, it's time to give up, pack it home, and just submit to the Yahud, because they're too powerful. There are gods amongst men. If all of these beliefs are true, you might as, if you can't beat them, join them. Go ahead, Armin.
I actually went and met with some Nazis, and I'm not insulting them. They called themselves Nazis, right? Like they did. I went into a meeting I was invited. I talked to them. I went and recorded my conversation with them. It was like I was in a group of like 10 or 12 Nazis, self-identifying Nazis that were saluting, doing the Nazi salute. They had books by Nazi thinkers and many other people there. They were talking about their ideas there, and I went there to interview them and record my conversation with them. And it was one of the most insane experiences I ever had in my life. I uploaded it on YouTube, and within seconds it was removed. So then I had to go and upload it on BitChute. If anyone wants to see it, like, contact me. I will provide you a link. You know, I'm not gonna provide a link to it on YouTube because YouTube might not like that, right? But one thing that they were saying constantly is about how the Jews are controlling the world and doing this and this and that. And you can see at some point in the conversation, I asked them, wait, then how are you the superior race? And they were all just dumbfounded. Like they were all, it was so amazing. I was like they were like, what do you mean? And I'm like, you are Aryans, and you are supposed to be the superior race, but you're telling me the Jews have managed to do this and control the world, and they have so much power. Wouldn't that not make them the superior race? Like you are saying, like how the Aryans have failed, how the white people are being weak and pathetic. I mean, if we wanted to follow your ideology, you guys seem to be, based on your own admission, to be pathetically weak, and based on your ideology, you should be eliminated, and the world should be given to the Jews. They are the strong ones. You advocate for removing the inferior race. Well, then like, shouldn't you be advocating for eliminating yourself now, given that they seem to be the strong ones here? And also, why are you even fighting? They have, like, the way you talk about them, it seems like they have godlike powers. Like, the most logical solution, like, you are the way you're describing them, there is no point in fighting. Nobody could stand up to such a power that you're explaining to me. Wouldn't the logical solution be just to submit to this, given that they are this powerful? And it was so amazing. It was such an amazing conversation. You should, amazing. Yeah. So,
you know what's really funny is you know, we talk a lot about like extreme victimhood narrative on the far left, but the far right victimhood narrative is very underrated. You want to talk about a victim failure, sexual inadequacy complex? Go look at the forums of these far right people. The sexual inadequacy is shocking. Like, my failure as a man is because of the Jews. My inability to get laid and be a Chad football player with a hot little white cheerleader girlfriend is because of the Jews. They took that from me. I'm like, dude, that sounds like a personal problem. Like, are you, bro? That's embarrassing to admit. Like, yikes! Oh, yeah.
The other funny took thing, my girlfriend.
Yeah, the Jews took my girlfriend. That didn't exist.
This is actually true. Like, some of them say, like, I don't have a girlfriend because the girlfriend that I was supposed to have was taken away by the Jews. You guys think we're making fun of this?
Manipulated into doing OnlyFans because they're all pornographers.
Yes, there are a lot of people on Twitter that are saying that the girls that they were supposed to be with have been taken away from them by Jews. This is not an exaggeration. There's a movement online of people claiming this. Oh yeah, go on.
Okay, one time I was bored and I spent an afternoon going through 4chan archives, and it was very interesting because I've never spent time on 4chan before. So I was going through these archives, just looking at how these communities have their own bizarre racial hierarchies. And one thing that I thought was so interesting was amongst their racial hierarchy, there was a consistent admission that the Jews were very powerful, apparently, but also very strong, very educated, more accomplished, have contributed more to the world.
Better at sex?
Yeah, well, they didn't go that far. But I was like, they would talk about how the Jews in their own way are so much more, for lack of a better term, like worthwhile than other races in their own construction of the world, smarter, have higher IQ, all this stuff. But then they still hated them. But I'm like, you guys think that they're way better than like most other ethnicities and nationalities, but you still hate them. I was going through these forums. It was fascinating. I'm like, the math is all over the place here.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you sound like you're describing something not worthy of worshiping. Like, shouldn't you guys be like making statues of Jews now and worshiping it now, given how powerful they seem to be?
Yeah, it was. They had a certain level of like bitter respect for the Jews in a way. They're like, you know what? Like, we don't like it, but you guys have been successful in your deviant plans, and because we believe in like might is right, I have a certain level of like resentful respect for that. Meanwhile, these other races are just like literally mentally deficient. Like, yeah.
No, not other races, just the what they. But first of all, there's no such thing as the white race. Okay,
Of course.
I mean, even if white people are a mix of different ethnicities, but even if there was, they don't claim other ethnicities are weaker. They say like everyone is getting it right except us. They're like everybody else knows what matters. It's just the white people who are getting it wrong. That's what they're seeing. That's what they're claiming. I like,
Wait,
okay, so so they're saying like, oh, look at Muslim countries. They understand what brings you power. The Jews understand what gives you power. Indian people understand what brings you power. It's just the white people that are pathetically weak and don't understand what brings you power and have lost their way, right? So that's what they're saying. So basically, the problem, the problem with Adolf was that he picked the most inferior. I mean, according to them, group as a superior. That's what you're saying. Tell him. Yeah.
Anyways, there are people that have definitely studied these racial caste systems among these communities more thoroughly than me. But I was just like, this is bizarre and fascinating.
I just want to clarify two things: one to YouTube and one to our audience. Okay, YouTube, we are against these anti-Semitic views. The reason why we're mentioning them is because we're ridiculing them. We're making fun of them. Okay, that's for YouTube. If eventually somebody is reviewing this, a human is reviewing this. For our audience, when Susanna says far right, we're not using the word far right in the same way that a lot of people on media are using it. When it comes to people who are nationalist or patriotic or are concerned about a demographic or ideological shift in their country or protecting their border integrity or migration, or people who have a concern with Islam, we don't see that as a far right position. You guys are not being far right. You guys are just being patriotic. When we use the word far right, we're actually talking about, like, for example, Nazis, right? That's what we mean when we say far right. Okay,
like legitimate nativist racist.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's not something I use lightly. Oh my god, we have a lot of super chats to go through. So let's do these super chats and then move to the next news. But I just have to say once again, the sexual inadequacy complex of like legitimate Nazis is one of the most hilarious things I've ever seen in my life. So amusing.
The thing is, this is not coincidental. Okay, the studies show is that sexual frustration is one of the main forces behind radicalization, not just with Nazis, but also Islamic radicals are as well. A lot of it comes from sexual frustration. But yeah.
If you want an example of that, go read one of the granddaddies of Islamism, Sayyid Qutb. And his mental breakdown over seeing people at a dance hall in American church in the 1940s. If you want a textbook example of brain-breaking sexual repression, I refer you to his writings. Oh, God. Okay. So let's go to the super chats. Kirka gave us 30 shekels. Thank you. Saying I always was against any persecuting of Holocaust deniers in Europe or the US because one, it's against free speech, and two, Israel government never had a problem with dealing with Arafat, Abu Nazem, and all those. Yeah, well, I don't think in the US we have any laws against Holocaust denial. That's not true in the US. In France,
yeah, we don't have that.
I'm against that.
Europe, we are against. I mean, if it's wrong, just correct it. Just fight bad speech with good speech. Do not ban speech. Obviously, yeah, we agree with you, Kirk.
Yeah, I think I don't, on principle, on its face, I don't like France's stance against the burning of national symbols as something that can be prosecuted under law. But if you're using that as a vector to identify who is against Republican values, then I start to see it actually being useful. But in a vacuum, in principle, I disagree with that as well. Fedagan just became a new YouTube member. Oh, thank you, Fedagan, and welcome to Satan's Minions. Thank you for supporting the channel. Aiden gave 10 BAM. I don't know what currency BAM is. Saying another bonus for being anti-Semitic is you can make a lot more money from these videos and live streams. Anti-Semitism has become profitable. That's for damn sure. Or you can literally set up Adolf shops in Palestine and have that be the entire point of your business. Yeah, unfortunately, there is definitely a market for this. Oh, BA is Bosnia. So is Bosnian Marka. Interesting. BMA is Bosnia. Well, hello to our community in Bosnia. Glad to have you. Jay sent $2 Australian. I think this is Australian dollars. St. Armin, say this. I think he's asking you to swear.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's trying to say something in Persian, which is insulting Khamenei. I don't think that it's written correctly, because if I read it, it's not going to sound like anything in Persian. But I think what you're trying to say, which is not written correctly, would translate to a donkey penis inside Khamenei's butt. I think that's what you're trying to get at. Oh, it's Kurdish. Okay. I think you're trying to get me to say, donkey penis inside Khamenei's,
booty.
Bum. Yeah, booty.
Booty hole.
But again, I'm afraid if I say it like that, if I read it, it might get triggered by YouTube or something. I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm not sure what I'm saying if I say it. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not going to say it just to be safe. But thank you for the super chat. Okay. Next news.
This is a fun one. This is the fun one.
Okay.
Because we're going to talk about something that is like case in point, Exhibit A of what we've been talking about this whole time. I mean, talk about as you know, it's actually quite appropriate, Armin. We were just talking about blaming the Jews for everything. The Jews are the gaps. Like, now we're going to talk about an example of that.
Fantastic. Okay, good. Next news.
UK imams blame Zionists for volatile far-right riots. In a troubling development amidst recent unrest in the United Kingdom, several Muslim imams have sparked controversy by attributing the violent far-right riots to the Zionist agenda during their Friday sermons. This inflammatory rhetoric has raised some concerns about the spread of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and their potential to exacerbate community tensions. Imam Ashraf Dabous of the Lewisham Islamic Center of London, for instance, claimed that the rioters were being manipulated and misguided by Zionists to tarnish the reputation of British Muslims. He went further, stating it is quite well known now publicly, due to the information that has been released online, that they are Zionists and they are the supporters of the State of Israel. These assertions, echoed by other religious leaders across the UK, have drawn sharp criticism from groups like the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, who have argued that such claims are thinly veiled anti-Semitism targeting the majority of British Jews who identify as Zionists. The Charity Commission has acknowledged these concerns and is assessing whether to investigate the charities associated with the mosques for promoting these views, highlighting the delicate balance between religious freedom and the need to combat hate speech and conspiracy theories in an increasingly polarized society. Let me be completely clear about something. I do not think that the Charity Commission of the UK is going to do absolutely anything about this. The history of the Charity Commission towards problematic Islamic charities has proven that they are not effective at taking action against these things. And so, frankly, I do not think that the Charity Commission will take action against these charities associated with these mosques now. But let's actually watch the video from one of these guys. then we can unpack a little bit further.
Okay, let me know if the audio is working here.
Number one,
Yes.
they
Good. Okay, so let's watch this all the way through. And let me see. Okay, it's a short video, so let's watch it all the way through.
Number one, they are being misled, and they are being manipulated, and they are being misguided by individuals who do not have their best interests at heart. It is quite well known now, publicly, due to information that has been released online, that their manipulators are Zionists. And they are supporters of the state of Israel. And with the ground that has been lost over the past few months, something had to take place that would try to win some ground back on the ground for the Zionist agenda. And what a better way than to paint the Muslims as being savages and killers and barbaric and so on and so forth, which in reality is a projection of the Zionist state itself. You have individuals that are sitting around enjoying the sun, paying hundreds of pounds per night for hotels, whilst they are urging and inciting people to cause chaos and damage to their own homes and their own streets. And so the message is for those individuals that are engaging in such action to wake up and understand the reality. To wake
So he's clearly talking about Tommy Robinson here without saying Tommy Robinson.
Right. So you can see the comment that Dee also highlighted here is somebody saying, well, isn't the instigator of the riots Tommy Robinson a Zionist? They are right to blame Zionism, the cancer of our world. First of all, okay, Tommy Robinson is a Zionist. One reason why I like him. But he's not an instigator of the riots. He managed protests, and he was the most insistent on keeping them peaceful and lawful so that they don't turn into riots. In fact, the reason why you have less riots in the UK is because Tommy Robinson is providing people with an outlet to be able to express themselves through protests. So you should be thanking Tommy Robinson for having less riots in the UK, because other people are not providing a way for people to express themselves. Tommy Robinson's positions has always been against riots, always been against taking the law into your own hand, attacking Muslims, attacking mosques. He has always been against that position. So to frame him as somebody who is responsible for the riots is absolutely dishonest, and I don't even know. But also, by the way, even if he was responsible for riots, which he isn't, it's not part of a Zionist plan. You know, it's funny how so many people say that when it's like, for example, if a Jew robs a bank, am I going to say that there's a Jewish plan to rob banks? Obviously, that is insane. Can you link this? Like, let's say, for example, Tommy Robinson was actually somebody that was trying to cause more riots in the UK, and he was also a Zionist. You could still not say that Zionism is responsible unless you could provide a link between his Zionism and a general plan of Zionism with the action that this specific one Zionist is doing. For example, we have an example here. This person, there was actually a Pakistani man, as Dee highlighted here, that was actually responsible, right, a Pakistani man, for causing the riots in the UK, spreading misinformation on social media, and being responsible partly for the riots in the UK.
You know,
this has been investigated.
That case against him was actually dropped.
Okay. So thank you for the clarification. Let's say that it wasn't. Hypothetically, let's say that a Pakistani man was responsible for spreading misinformation that led to. That's good, so that you clarified that, or else I wouldn't have that information, right? So based on the news I've seen, that I didn't see the updates, he was charged by Pakistani police for spreading misinformation in the UK that led to some of the riots, and now that has been dropped. But even if it didn't drop, just like we did the hypothetical with Tommy, that say, like, let's say he was responsible for the riots. Even if Tommy was responsible, that wouldn't make Zionism responsible. Even if this man was responsible for some of the misinformation and some of the riots, we wouldn't come here and say there's a Pakistani plan. Imagine how insane that would sound. Because there was a Pakistani man that spread the misinformation in the UK to cause riots, and from Pakistan, is there a Pakistani plan to increase riots in the United Kingdoms? Obviously, that would be an insane claim to make. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, we say this all the time. Like, just because we can identify that X, Y, or Z crime was committed by a Muslim or something, that doesn't mean that that crime was committed in furtherance of Islam. It's so obvious.
It's obvious.
So I love how they're like, we know one guy. We got one guy. He supports Israel. Therefore, Israel is fomenting purposeful destruction and disharmony within the UK because they got no other plan.
And this is so rich coming from people who say, like, oh, you cannot say there's an Islamic plan to do terrorism because you have found all these terrorists who happen to be Muslim. Are like, you, okay, then what the hell? You're doing the same thing then. Like, you're doing the same thing. And you're not even doing it right, because when we actually find terrorists that are Muslim, they're actually Muslims who are responsible for terrorists. The Zionist that you found as an example, who's responsible, who you say is responsible, is actually not even responsible for the riots. So you have one example, and your example is not even a good example. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know if anything more needs to be said.
No, I think that was it.
Sorry, okay. I just saw that we got a super chat. Oh my god. Sorge sent a super chat saying, I don't like the juice, to be honest. Too much sugar.
Wait, there's a meme for that. Hold on.
Did we not cover a story very early on in my time at Atheist Republic where some Maulana, like in Bangladesh or something, somewhere in South Asia, literally had a testimony against Jews, like because of the Jews? I think that was a real thing. I think that was a real thing.
Look at that.
Oh,
Look,
Jews. It's so funny.
This has been a really, really old classic meme. Yes, I'm really saying classic. Yeah, love this one. I like how the juice is so angry. It's like, well, fuck you too. This one always makes me laugh. I love this one. Okay. Stop the hate on juice, please. All right, guys.
This unmitigated hate.
Actually, wait a minute. What am I saying? I'm actually
you
a
hate
Jews. I'm a Jews hater as well, actually. What am I even saying?
It's true.
Guys, it's basically just empty calories, liquid sugar that doesn't fill you up. I'm actually that is I'm actually I didn't. I have to take that.
You needed to catch.
All right, guys.
Before you play into the juice propaganda lobby.
Look at this. John is saying, "What about vitamin C, Armin?" I don't know, John. Maybe you could bite into an orange instead of removing all that fiber and all that energy that your digestive system has to go through to be able to take that vitamin C. Have you tried eating an actual fruit instead of just liquidizing it and just shoving it inside your, I don't know. How about that?
It's true. It's true. Before we end, I want to say, Angel LR, please email me. Okay, I wish you the best on your treatment, and also I would like to send you like a card or a little supportive care package. So, Angel, please email me.
Yes.
Please.
Please.
Yeah. Anything else you have to say, Armin, before we wrap up?
No, Amir was actually surprised by my aggressiveness when it comes to health issues. I am very passionate
that's
about
the tip
it.
of the iceberg, yeah. Amir. You have no idea.
And also John said, you got a point. Okay, fine. So see, I convinced somebody. This is my anti-juice hatred has been justified. You two, please understand that I'm saying juice. And also I have directed somebody towards the light, and one person at least is now going to have a healthier life because of my advocacy here. See, you're welcome. Anyways, guys, please make sure you like the Atheist Republic, not just because of the health tips that we give you, but also because of our amazing coverage of important issues around the world. Please make sure you've subscribed to Atheist Republic. Please make sure you have hit the bell notification. Please make sure that if you do not do these things, you go and question your entire life choices and feel, make sure you fill yourself with shame and guilt and question your morality and your lack of purpose in life, that you couldn't even get yourself to spend half a second to like a stream that is useful to the betterment of the human condition and our society as a whole. And we spend 3 hours here working for you guys, bringing you all of this information and knowledge, and you couldn't spend half a second liking the stream. Just ask yourself, look into a mirror, ask yourself, what's wrong with me? Why are people doing so much for the world and I couldn't just spend half a second doing my contribution? There must be some issues mentally with me, and I have to go reevaluate my life. Okay, so make sure you go
I
ahead
love
and
ending the stream on a note of existential dread and questioning. Just put a little bow on it.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Anyways, guys,
thank you everyone for supporting the show.
Yeah, thank you. And you're welcome. And thank us for doing the show, right? Anyways, guys, until next stream, bye-bye. Stay liberal.